stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Holtz. Trustee Rogers.
Present.
Trustee Suisse.
Present.
Trustee Presnino.
Present.
Trustee Barron. Mayor Yukich.
Present.
Trustee Gray.
Present.
Okay. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor. Excuse me. I'm asking the board for consensus to either table or remove the item 2, the workshop, about the ComEd workshop, and send it to the Environment Committee out of respect for our committee. In the past, for example, signage was sent to CED to discuss and look at before it came to a workshop. So I'm asking for that same respect.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're all set.
Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment also. I'd like to take the consent agenda and pull out item number 1 and consider it separately, which basically means just to consider both of them separately.
Okay, do you want to take one out with those two?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let's go. Okay. Okay. We go to reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. First would be mayor's report. Homer for the holidays, thank you. Saturday was a great event for Homer and the holidays lighting celebration. If you have not seen the holiday lights yet in the active course section of Heritage Park, please drive by them and take a look after the meeting. The lights can be admired from the road, or you can take a walk through the park and enjoy some nice photo opportunities. And I would like to give a big thank you to our village staff for pulling this event together and setting up the displays in some rough weather conditions. Our Parks and Recreation Committee for their input in planning and volunteering at the event. Our EMA volunteers and the Will County Sheriff's Auxiliary for assistance with the traffic control. The Homer Township Road District for assistance in putting up a pole, decor, and the tent. The Homer Township Fire Department District, Protection District for providing transportation for Santa and staying on site for the public safety and also the bridge. The following local organizations for providing volunteers and activities at the event included Arts Guild of Homer Glen, Cross of Glory Lutheran Church, First American Bank, Homer Glen Junior Women's Club, Homer Junior High School Choir, Oak Prairie Junior High School, or High C Choir, Schilling School Choir, and many individuals that volunteered. Extra special touches were added to the events and made possible because of sponsors. I would like to extend a big thank you to Camp Bow Wow, Justin's Pizza and Restaurant, ComEd, Glitter Your Palate, Kono's Corn Maze, Meyer, Ozinga, Ruby Agave, Silver Cross Hospital, and V3 Companies. Village Hall will be closed for Christmas holiday. Village Hall will be closed on Tuesday, December 24th and Wednesday, December 25th in observance of the Christmas holiday. And we would all like to wish everyone here a happy and safe Christmas. We'll go to the trustees and we'll start with Trustee Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report, but I would like to echo your comments and say what a great event that was on Saturday the 7th. And congratulations to everybody who put it on, and to wish everybody happy holidays.
We'll go to Trustee Holtz.
So I've been a little busy, but I've been meaning to prepare a formal report regarding our Public Services and Safety Committee meetings. My focus was elsewhere the last few days, I'm sorry. But I will say we've worked quite a bit, and kudos to the staff and the sheriff and the fire department. We worked on the truck issue on Gowder. We worked on speeding along Parker. Now we're looking at speeding along Charlie, right? And I feel like we're making really good progress. And I look forward to what appears to be a great cooperation with the county and Lockport to address potential upcoming situations at the gas station on I-59 moves forward. We will be bringing forth a recommendation for the board to consider that will require, I believe, mutual consideration from the county to reduce the speed on 151st Street between Parker and Cedar, all the way to Gowder, actually, from 35 down to 40. So that's a couple of things that we did.
Thank you, Trustee Holmes. Trustee Rogers?
I don't know.
Trustee Pasmino?
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Suisse?
Report, Mayor.
Thank you. Village Attorney?
I just wanted to point out a big day tomorrow. Just the Madam Clerk, a happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank
It's her
you.
birthday month, that's all you're aware other than that. Wonderful.
You're my favorite, Eric.
Village Attorney? Okay. Public safety officials? Anyone back there? Village Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to, I have two short announcements. The first one is I just wanted to advise the public that the last board meeting, there was conversation and vote taken on the phase 2 of the sports complex with SFA Associates. I just wanted to just make a public note to let everyone know that we're going to hold off on implementing that next study till probably the later part of January at the earliest, to allow some time for some additional dialogue between the village and private investor groups. So in case anyone was wondering when that was getting started, we're going to wait until the new year for that. And the other thing is we have Mr. John Robinson here tonight, and I just have to give a very special shout out and thank you to John and his crew for the Hummer for the holidays, because they were out there in the cold, the wet, the wind. They're like the postman. I just want to say a special thank you to him, because it was a lot of work to put all the decorations and lights up, so thank you.
I don't think everyone can, I don't think everyone can see John's reaction, but I don't think he's used to, sorry, taking compliments. It was amazing.
Did a good job, John. All right, and last but not least, the birthday girl, village clerk.
My report is under new business, so I'll report then. But yes, my birthday is tomorrow, and I'll be accepting birthday wishes till the end of December.
And gifts.
Okay, thank you, birthday girl. Next would be public comment. And if everyone could please try to keep it as close to 3 minutes as possible, it would be wonderful. First one would be Dan Hamilton.
Good evening. So my name is Dan Hamilton, and my associate back there is Caitlin Murray. And we're community health educators over from the Will County Health Department's Tobacco Control and Prevention Program. And we are working on initiatives to address e-cigarette use. And one of our initiatives is addressing e-cigarette use in public places. We're trying to amend home rule municipalities' existing smoke-free indoor air laws to include e-cigarette use, and we believe that Homer Glen should be one of these municipalities. We have a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation that we would like to present to you all. We're requesting that we be placed on the next available village board agenda to present this to you. This presentation will include facts on e-cigarette use, chemical exposure from aerosol, and Illinois Youth Survey data regarding e-cigarette use from schools here in Homer. Thank you.
Thank you. Vince Miles.
Hello, I'm Vince Miles. I live at 15055 Wood Duck Lane, and I'm here to talk about the rezoning of the 6 acres. I've lived there 33 years. I've never had a problem with water until they built the houses behind me down Chicory toward 143rd. Since they built those houses, every time it rains, I can't walk in my backyard or cut my grass for weeks. My sump pump runs constantly, and the front of my house where the ditch is, I have the lowest ditch on Wood Duck. All the water from Chicory makes the turn on Wood Duck, and Wood Duck this way, I'm in the middle. I'm 2 lots off of the 6 acres. I have the lowest area, and about 8-9 years ago, it got so high, it backed to my septic, into my house. It was $5,000 worth of damage. When it goes under my street, it goes into the creek and goes south. What concerns me is, one, the 6 acres, all the trees, cutting them all down. If they build, could create more flooding. If, R2 is single family or multiple family, if they build condos, apartments, or townhouses, these septics are coming my way and filling up my ditch, and I don't want to be flooded. I'm all for progress in the village. I love the village, and what concerns me is rezoning something that hurts the rest of the community. Who knows if nobody's talking about, is it condos, apartments, townhouses, 3 lots, half-acre lots? All of a sudden we have 12 houses, and everybody else has an acre or more. Everything's like in the dark. And here again, the people have the lot, they should be able to build on it. I'm all for progress. Do I want the street to go through? No, but that's progress. So, I'm all for like 3 lots with retention ponds, which I was told years ago would happen if they ever sold that. But I haven't heard nothing about retention ponds, which would take some of the water. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Next would be Joe Therese.
Hello, I'm Joe Therese, 13956 Christina Lane. I live in the middle of the 6 acre lot. This 6 acres is the last of the large wooded lots in our area. The last remaining home to many species of wildlife. The forest floor is covered with native plants that one would have to put a messenger with to see them. This is a very densely wooded parcel, and in my estimation, the heritage trees number in the thousands. Some of the oaks were here long before the first white settlers came to our area. The Homer Glen Comprehensive Plan designates this property as single-family estate. According to Homer Glen zoning chart, this is E2. This is an environmental corridor, and the features must be preserved. The previous owner, who I personally knew, had a meeting with the village of Homer Glen about if he chose to subdivide this land. Taken from the Coldwell Banker website, the previous owner states that it could be kept as 6 acres, or if it was to be subdivided, Wood Duck would have to be connected. One 1 acre lot to the south of Wood Duck, then 2.5 acres lots between Wood Duck and 139th Street. I was told by the previous owner that the village of Homer Glen charged him $2,300 to get this information. I would like to have the 1 acre lot zoned as R2 and the 2 remaining 2.5 acre lots zoned as E2. This would, in my opinion, be a win for everyone concerned. The current owner could sell this property at 6 acres or subdivide it as Homer Glen said it could. Would mean more heritage trees saved. It would also give the adjoining property owners more peace of mind for future flooding problems. By zoning the 2.5 acre lots E2 would help ensure that in the future, someone doesn't ask to have them subdivided again. Besides the importance of saving heritage trees, peace of mind of flooding, well water is another concern. I am told that the Homer Glen has about 7,000 to 8,000 residents currently on well water. They draw their water from the same aquifer as other nearby communities. The city of Joliet water level for their community well water is alarmingly low. I was unofficially told by a spokesperson of their water department that they will be connecting to Lake Michigan water soon. The city of Lockport just drilled a deep water well on 151st Street, just west of the Interstate 355. I attended a meeting in Lockport this last October. I was said that the deep water well cost Lockport over $5 million. The difference between Joliet and Lockport and that of Homer Glen, they are on a network. They can connect to everyone. Here in Homer Glen, we are all on individual private wells. There is no affordable quick fix if the wells go dry. We should limit the number of additional people going on well water. Zone it E2, it's the best for everyone. If one looks at the zoning map supplied by staff in the upper right corner, northeast of the 6 acre lot, there is a 3.5 acre lot zoned as E2. Behind it is a 5 acre lot zoned as E1. Just looking on the right corner, just southeast of the two lots, at the end of Wood Duck, there are several lots zoned E2. The Plan Commission had other choices other than R2. On this evening's agenda supplement sheet, page 4, the Plata survey is not the lot sizes that was given by the Village of Homer Glen in compliance with the comprehensive plan. Page 3, under comprehensive plan use, single-family estate is designated. Page 8, under Plan Commission minutes, second paragraph. Once again, it states this property as single-family estate or to be zoned E2. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Daniel Herr.
Good evening, everybody. I live 14959 Glen Crest Lane, Cedar Glen subdivision. My property backs up to where the concrete station was for the new construction on 150th Neck, which is owned by Kettler. Since they took that down, Kettler was kind enough to dump 42 14-yard trucks of roadbed gravel or parking lot gravel. And when I spoke to the guys who were doing the grading, he is planning to park trucks there. So I am hoping that the 159th and Gallagher truck parking issue is not going to move to the Kettler property behind my home. Because right now it looks like a dump. There's big steel I-beams, there's semi-trailers half tipped over. It's getting pretty garbagey. And it's not a safe place for if kids get back there. I just don't want semi-trucks parked all night. And I don't want that problem to move behind my house. I understand it's commercial property. I'm hoping the village can help me with, or either identify what I can do or what the village can do to not let that happen, or at least keep us informed about what type of commercial is going to be there and if that'll even be allowed.
Thank you. Joe, did you hear anything about this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I can speak on that.
Okay.
This is a piece of property at the previous board meeting that the board adopted a resolution and submitted to Will County to protest the rezoning for truck storage. We received word this week, actually we received good news from Will County. We were notified that they're actually going to be withdrawing their petition.
Perfect, thanks. I really appreciate it. It's great. We love our area. I just don't want to see problems move down. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Did they come to us to get a permit to dump the,
That wouldn't be our jurisdiction, but
that's
We
the
can-
township?
It's unincorporated.
Right. But I mean, if they're dumping something that could cost.
we can reach out to Will County and get some answers to them.
All right. I just don't want anything being done through their subdivision or coming onto our properties either. So I would like to know if he actually drew a permit to be able to put that there in the first place.
Just to reach out to the county.
Okay, thank you. Next would be Linda Herber.
Good evening. Just to end on a bright note, I haven't been able to attend any of the village board meetings the last couple of months, but my family and I went to the Veterans Day celebration that we had, and it was a wonderful, wonderful event, and touched our hearts personally and as a community, and I just want to say thank you for that. It's bigger and better than last year, and I know next year will be even better. And we attended the celebration for Homer for the holidays, and my husband, who, while he is not a Grinch, is not easily impressed, and was very impressed by the decorations and by all the work that went into it by the board, the township, the village employees, and all the volunteers. So I just wanted to say thank you, and we really enjoyed it, and we're looking forward to more events at Heritage Park.
Thank you, Linda. We appreciate it.
It's quite all right.
That's it for public comments. All right, next would be the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. If there is a motion to approve the following items. 2, one we tabled, so 2, the approval of the treasurer's report of cash investments for the period ending November 30th, 2019. So, Trustee Gray, Trustee Rogers, discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Casino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
Thank you. Okay. So the next one would be for the approval of the accounts payable for the period of November 28th, 2019 through December 12th, 2019 in the amount of $7,362,224.48.
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
I'll second.
Trustee Suisse. I think I cut back on talking. We don't want you to lose your voice.
I'm saving it.
All right, so we have a second. Is there a discussion?
Yes, Mayor, the reason I asked to have that pulled, the consent agenda pulled apart is just to explain why our payables suddenly are $7.362 million for 1 month. This is not a blip in our spending. It actually is we're paying off some of our bond debt, and I was hoping that our finance director Sawyers could speak to that.
Yes, on December 2nd, we retired the remaining bonds from the 2012 general obligation bonds, saving the village somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 in interest cost. It had met its call date, so we had the funds available. We did an interfund loan from the bond fund for about 9 months of home rule sales tax, and then once that, so around September of next year, the debt service fund will pretty much go away. Will be removed from the treasurer's report, and we'll start a new fund called the home rule sales tax fund. Because in addition to retiring the debt early, this also frees up home rule sales tax for future capital projects or future debt service.
We lent ourselves money out of an account that we had, and we're going to continually pay it back over the next 9 months, is what you're saying, right?
That's correct.
So we didn't incur any new debt to retire debt.
No.
We're not kicking the can or refinancing anything here. We really are retiring this debt, and by lending ourselves that money and taking out the opportunity, we've saved ourselves $500,000 or $600,000.
That is correct.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea to make a point of those things every once in a while.
I think so too. So we are debt free right now. That's a nice thing. Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Pazino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Rogers? Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-055, an ordinance rezoning an approximately 6-acre parcel from the A1 agricultural zoning district to the R2 single-family residential zoning district for certain real property located at 15029 West 139th Street, Homer, Glen, Illinois, HG-1927A, 15029 West 139th Street. Trustee Holtz?
Second.
Trustee Gray? Discussion?
I'll wait your turn.
Does anyone have any discussion?
I can do that, I'm not starting, but, okay. So I met with DJ yesterday to talk about this. I had a lot of questions and concerns the last time and really didn't have what I needed, enough information for what I needed to make a decision. Because when I looked at this and then that concept drawing that was included in the prior packet that showed potentially 6 home sites, I just could not see that as a reality. And I wanted to know, like, okay, where would the access roads go if potentially 6 homes were to go in there? And VJ then explained to me what would be the next step. So I would love it if you would explain to the board what you told me yesterday about what would then be the next step. Because in reality, touching on what one of the members of the public said, there really can't be more than 3 houses located, even if we do approve this stuff.
So looking at the R2 zoning, they can potentially subdivide into 5 different parcels, but you don't have access there. So you can only do 1 lot fronting 139th Street and 2 lots fronting Wood Duck Lane extension. So in reality, you can only do 3 lots, and we don't approve flag lots. So just looking at the layout and everything, you can only do up to 3 lots as subdivision.
Right, and then they would then have to comply with the next phase requirements, including retention, the roads.
That's correct.
Yeah, I wanted to make that same point. I think it was Mr. Therese, Mr. Miles, I think it was, who you know, one asked if there might be condos or apartments or things of that nature, and the R2 zoning district does not allow that. It's 1 acre minimum lot, and the fact that we do not allow any flag lots anymore. I mean, we certainly have enough of those in the village that are a legacy, but we're not granting any new ones. So any of those interior divisions would have to be served by a street, and you can't do that without making flag lots. So to Trustee Holtz's point and to Director Gaddy's point, you can really only get about three lots out of that. And as far as like Mr. Therese had asked about making different zoning levels for the piece of property, they're coming to us and asking us to change. There's 1 PIN for that property, so you have to treat it right now as 1 property. We can't treat the back portion as 1 and the front portion as 1 because it's all shares 1 PIN, so it has to have 1 zoning. Is that correct, Director Gaddy? So we can't say until they subdivide it, and at that point, then you might be getting down spot zoning, which might be a problem too. But as it stands right now, it's just 1 PIN, and it has to be treated the same way. And if my understanding of zoning is correct, if we zoned it all at the higher level of E2, you could basically cut off that back portion of Wood Duck, because if you tried to service it back there, that would make that one to the south too small, wouldn't it, to qualify? So.
But to what you were saying, Trustee Gray, if that was the case, if we make it, because the comp plan does state that is E2 family, single family estate, and maybe that's the way we should go, just to make sure that there's only 3 lots, you can always do a slight variance on that back lot, which might not be the E2. Because I want to know what procedures, when something is rezoned, do we just do it upon request? Do we identify the wetlands, what's going to happen with zoning? It's like, oh, let's do it now and push everything back to the, we'll think about that later. There was a soil analysis done on that property in May of 2017. Now, granted, it says it's clay loam type of till, which is a little bit more absorbent, but the water tables are very high. So that does, what they're saying about flooding, does equate, is back that up. So I would like to know, how do we rezone? Is it based on a request? Does somebody come and say, oh, I think this will fit into an R2?
BJ, can you clarify, is what Sharon's saying, we did B2, but that would basically achieve the same result of 3? Is that a little lot?
Right, and it protects the property a little bit more.
She's saying that would then...
No, they will get only 2 lots. From 6 acres, if you do E2, they can only do 2 lots. As a 2.5 acre minimum.
One big lot to the north and one to the south that would not qualify as...
And that would not fit the Wood Duck Lane connection, as you only get 1 acre south of Wood Duck Lane.
Touching on this and the concern about the removal of the amount of trees that are located over there, led me to a lot of thoughts, and I had discussions with BJ and Melissa yesterday, that when we held our workshop, the joint workshop with the board and the environment committee, we were basically given an hour time frame to talk about what I feel is a really important amendment to the ordinance. And they're going to be meeting again, probably talking about it in January, and I think, you know, time is of the essence because, quite frankly, I feel the point and a lot of the message that was trying to be conveyed in that meeting was lost in what ended up being about 15 minutes of discussion amongst the board. The presentation was excellent and it lasted about 25 minutes, and then there was around 20 minutes of discussion from the environment committee that they've probably been saving up for, I don't know, 2 years to talk about. And in light of what happened with the child property, and I know we don't want to see that again. I don't think anybody on this board wants to see that again. I think it would be important for us to revisit that ordinance, especially as it pertains to this. And so, I mean, is the petitioner present? Would you?
Are you the seller's petitioner?
I'm the attorney for the owners. They're selling to it. They're selling to the building.
So I just
My name is, for the record, Carmen Gasparo, G-A-S-P-E-R-O.
Thank you. Do they have a contract? Do they have a buyer? Is there a pressing issue that this could temporarily be tabled until we can, you know, resolve our tree preservation ordinance, which could, in fact, have a drastic impact on this 6 acre?
My understanding is he specifically wants 3 houses on that property and has a design for that name right now. Based in his contract.
Do you have anything that's pending or that is contingent upon our approval?
He will, in order to move the property, it needs to be at least zoned residential.
But he doesn't have any contingency contracts existing right now?
No, that's right, but it would be nice to at least sell it. He will not purchase the property until it's zoned residential. So my understanding also is that when the property is slated to be subdivided and there's permits, the planning commission or the board will be able to revisit and decide yes or no as to your retaining of the natural fauna or flora to be conformed with what we would have expected as an R2. But I can specifically state that he's planning on putting dividing it into 3, putting 3 residential houses there, which would be consistent with the houses to the east, and consistent with the houses to the west, and consistent with the houses to the south.
Right. Thank you.
Trustee Holtz has referred to a couple times about losing the trees and taking down the trees, and not one tree has been slated for removal just yet. This is only about zoning. This gentleman, the client that you represent, could come in and say, you know what, I found one buyer's going to take the whole thing and put a little house on the prairie in the center of it. We don't know yet. All they're asking us for is zoning changes. And if my reading of the zoning, again, is correct, R2 is going to protect more of those trees in the long run than the ag that is sitting on it right now. The ag that's sitting there right now, they can make a pasture out of it if they wanted to, as long as they got the wherewithal to go out and stump everything. And again, not what I'm advocating, please don't get me wrong, but I'm telling you that this is actually going to put in place more strictures on that land than they currently have by moving it from ag to residential. And as far as the child property, they have come into compliance with our current ordinances. Our current ordinances are written that, they have to do the preservation, and what it does allow for, if you go beyond these numbers, restitution or reforestation. And they did, both of those. I checked that they are in compliance with our current codes. They paid a restitution fee and they planted a whole bunch of trees. Now, it might not be to everybody's liking what they did to that piece of property. And I'm not talking about not addressing any of the berming or anything on the back. That's over there. That's those guys. But as far as the trees go, it is written into our ordinance that you can do that. So you can't necessarily go and malign somebody for playing by the current rules as they are in the book. Now, I get it if the Environment Committee wants to change some of those rules, and we did try to get there, and you're absolutely right. We had way too short a meeting on that. That is something that's probably going to take multiple meetings, and, we're not all going to land on the same page. But I don't like necessarily bringing up property owners who aren't even party to this piece of legislation we're talking about tonight, who've been in compliance with our ordinances. So I would like to see that stop.
Duly noted, and I wasn't trying to, imply that they did violated any ordinance on record. I'm just saying, for comparison purposes, nobody wants to see this 6 acres clear cut, but you are absolutely right. Under the current zoning, they could go in there right now, which none of us want. And I guess that's kind of fun,
Well, I was just, how do we do rezoning? Upon request? Upon what they want? Okay, we want 3 houses, so we'll try to fit it in with the zoning. Comp plan says something different. So what do we actually look at? Do we look at their request? Do we look at what's going to happen to the wetlands, the use? How has that worked? How do you, what says that, okay, we're not going to go according to the comp plan, even though we're looking at a strategic plan, all of a sudden now that's written in stone, but nobody looks at a comp plan. Oh, well, okay, let's look somewhere else. We're looking at a narrow vision when you look at what's on Christina and those other properties, when you say, oh, well, those are our 2. When we look at rezoning in Homer Glen, we use a 1.5 mile radius. So we're like negating what's on the outside of those 2 blocks realms, which is not right either.
Well, in fairness, to touch on that, the 2007 amendment to the Conservation Design Ordinance that removed the exemption for Ball Road and 159 completely negates what the comp plan says. So it affected directly what happened with the MI Homes proposal on 159, which specifically called for multifamily housing with that location. So when it comes to saying, well, the comp plan says,
or request,
it's been 14 years, is what they envision, is what the founding fathers and the parties that passed the rules and the comp plan at that time, was that realistic with where we are now? And, I think we have to consider all of those things.
Sharon, with what you're talking about, we've been out there and walked the property.
Yes, we have.
Until you find out where the wetlands are, what's involved in it, and figure out how you could set up a road to come through there, because we don't allow flag lots anymore. It's a very long, thin piece of property. And depending on where the wetlands are, this could come down to 1 or 2 houses. I don't even know if 3 houses would be able to win here, because you still have to put some sort of a flag lot, because they have to either get from 139th Street or
The third lot will be south of Wood Duck once it's connected.
right.
From Wood Duck.
So I envision it after it's R2 and, technically 3 could go there once they figure out sewer and septic and wetlands and all that other stuff based on the drawings and actually looking at the site. They won't get 3 on there because the engineers are going to say you need this much detention, you need this big of septic field for the runoff, because although it's R2, I don't think they'll be able to put 2 on there, but I think in fairness to the owners, that R2 is not unreasonable to ask for. And, like I said, my fear is if you were to even consider tabling it, You know, it could be clear cut tomorrow, because you could say, hey, I can market it better if it's clear cut and people can actually see the site and the topography. Huh?
Well, okay, if the board is definitely leaning towards an R2, then the motion for consideration should be amended to protect the residents there and show it as, even though it's R2, a maximum of 3 single-family homes. Now, whether they put 1, 2, or 3, that's for the protection of the village and the residents. And I think most of the residents would probably be happy with that, knowing that there's something concrete there, that they can't come up with something else saying, oh, it's R2, we're going to figure this out. And I think that would help everybody get through this hump, including protecting the residents. I think the board would feel better about it, that it would be amending the motion and the ordinance to say that there would be a maximum of 3 single-family homes. Let them figure out how they want to put that out, whether they want 1, 2, or 3.
I would be afraid that that would put us in some sort of trick bag that sometime down the line when a 40 acres parcel comes before us that's R2, and we say, you know what, but we want to make sure that you can't get 30 lots out of that. We want it to be, have a covenant on it that says you can only do 15 or 20. I mean, basically, you're changing the zoning within the zone. Because you're saying what an R2 allows 1 acre. No, we know just by the geography of this piece of property, they can only service it from 3 points. So they cannot make a flag lot. He can stand there all day long asking for a flag lot. We have the wherewithal to stand our ground and say, no, we're not going to do flag lots. So looking at this piece of property, I don't see how he could get anything more than 3 out of it. You got a front, 139, you have the front wood duct on both of those ends. So he's not really going to get anything more than 3 out of it. I understand what you're asking for, and don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing so much on this. I don't think you can get it out of here. I'd be worried about what it might do down the road, where the Dunn property or the Jensen property comes up, and suddenly we want to start saying how we want to leave the zoning the way it is, but put such strictures on it that it doesn't really that the zoning is hollowed out.
Can you even really do that here?
Not under the current code. If it was a planned unit development, you'd be able to do it. But if simply saying we're going to limit this, it's R2.
So if they figure out a way to put 4 or 5, whatever idea they have, other than using the flag lot, who knows? Who knows?
If it complies with the ordinance, yes.
But they need to come back for the kind of subdivision though.
Correct. That's the key, is that, as the attorney commented, the next step is, this is just the zoning.
Right.
When it comes time to do the plat of subdivision, you guys are going to have a voice in that as well. And if they're trying to bring in 6 lots, 7 homes in there, there's going to be something that's going to be a problem for them as well, because this board is going to have to say somewhere.
And this one right now, the farthest lot south would be 1.78 acres. And you've got 10, you've got 2.77 acres, and you've got 1.5 acres. And I know, like Trustee Craig said,
the most that could probably be put in here, because otherwise you're looking at a flag lot, is 3.
You'd have to take one drive off of Wood Duck, and then you could go north or south, and then the other one off of 139th Street. So to put any more in, because we're still at the point where we have no idea what lands are, where they are, how big they are, and we don't know where the retention is going to be. So the absolute most they would be able to put on this lot would be 3. If you went to E2, you could put 2 on. But they're not asking for E2, they're asking for R2.
I think what Sharon's concern is that, okay, we go with R2, then the next buyer comes up and the next buyer goes, well, I want a variance. And then by saying, but I understand what you're saying, it would have to be a PUD, but by saying, okay, no more than 3 lots, it's going to give a lot of people a sense of comfort where they're not going to have to continually watch this piece to make sure nothing happens, I guess. Better word, but I do know what he's saying. We can't do it unless it's a PUD.
Well, I'm not sure if there's a, okay, can you run, well, maybe with the right is, if you have houses, if you run a street right on the edge, like Christiana, on one side of the property, and you have the houses facing the other way?
You won't have enough room though, not with the,
No, I'm
the
just trying to
setbacks,
think,
and the fire trucks width that they're gonna need, that they're gonna want. If they did that, you'd probably like it more, because they probably could get 1 or 2 houses in at the most, if they did that. Because I think you're just looking at the parcels, but you have to take into all of the infrastructure, everything else, all of the setbacks that are gonna be required here. And that's where I can go, okay, I feel comfortable that there's no way they're gonna be able to get more than 3 houses.
And we can put a restriction on that right now.
Well, attorney said
No,
at the end.
You wouldn't be able to do the restriction in terms of limiting to 3, but I think that the petitioner is hearing this, and I think that knowing, we hear what the consensus is, and this board is saying, we don't want more than 3 homes on this site. And if the petitioner later on brings in a subdivision plat that has 5 homes on it, I think we all know where that's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all singing the same tune.
Yep.
And as far as,
You said we're all singing the same tune.
and as far as flooding and water issues go in the area, I mean, I get it. I get water in my yard too. I appreciate that. A lot of us do. You know, the water is always an issue out here. Either too much, too expensive, or too little. But you know, and to Trustee Sweet's point about protecting the residents, I mean, yeah, that's always going to be our overarching goal, is to protect everybody, basically. But you know, we do have to make sure that once this thing does come forward, if it comes forward, you know, hopefully they'll be able to market a piece of property the way they want to. But we do have to make sure that we are cognizant of that, and that we are sensitive to everybody in that neighborhood. What's created on that spit of land is getting into a sewer or into a swale and getting out there, not, you know, impeding on their neighbors. And also, maybe, you know, I don't want to step on your toes, Trustee Holtz, but, you know, I mean, when I was on public safety, I did not know about the chicory, but, you know, maybe that needs to get on the list as well, so.
Any other discussions? So what would we like to do? Okay. Madam Clerk, do you want to please call the roll?
Sure. Trustee Sweet.
I'm still not comfortable with it. No.
Trustee Kazmino.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Holtz.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19057? An ordinance granting a variance to permit the construction of a shed, an accessory structure in the rear front yard of the subject property. The accessory structures are not a permitted obstruction. Section 220-807, chapter 220. Zoning of the code of the Village of Homerville for certain real property located on R1 Single Family Residential District of 14229 South King Road, Homer, Glen, Illinois. HG 1926 V 14229 South King Road. Your motion.
Second.
Trustee Rogers. Second. Trustee Kazmino. Discussion.
Yeah, I'll go through this. I just wanted to say, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Just wanted to say this is a true hardship case. We were given a lot of details of why it is. So I don't have any problem with it.
Love that.
Yeah, they're being really, really conscious of that creek running through their property, so I like that too.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Kazmino.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Holtz.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Sweet.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3, is there a motion to approve the attached 2020 minute meeting calendar for the village board planning commission, committees, and emergency management agencies.
So moved.
Trustee Holz,
Second.
trustee Gray, discussion. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Pasquino?
Aye.
Sharon just gave my thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right, next will be a workshop item. This is going to be on Heritage Park Schematic Design Update. Jim Pedrakis of Tree Architecture is here to discuss updates to the schematic design proposals shared at the Committee of the Whole meeting on November 21st. Discussion will include cost estimates and phasing of project options.
Mr. Mayor, while Jim is setting up his presentation, I'm passing out a spreadsheet that Director Sawyers has put together. This was one of the questions that was asked at the last workshop that we had in November about available funding for the next phase of the project and some options that staff have compiled for you to see tonight. So John is also here to answer any questions. This will be something we'll discuss later on and during the workshop, after we get through the changes that Jim and his team has made, but I want to make sure you guys had a copy of it.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Jim.
I feel like I was here last year. Happy birthday again. It's like happy birthday. We're celebrating. Now I know.
We're 6'5".
Yeah. Y'all got dressed up. Okay, so we have been here for a couple of years, right? We've talked about this. Just wanted to kind of refresh the board. When TRIA first got hired, some of the main topics of discussion were, let's plan out Heritage Park, make sure we're not painting ourselves in the corner anymore, right? We're laying out the entire thing, which we presented, right? And I'll touch on these again. And then the second part to that was, let's give the board options in terms of funding, costs, so forth, how you can actually get the entire project done or parts of it, so to give the board choices. And that's probably one of the main parts that we're going to be discussing here today. So I know everyone went through the workshop. A reminder, refresher on what the areas were, right? Here's the whole park. That's here. I'm going to go through these in order and kind of talk about all these items, right? So area number 2, remember again, they're not phases, so they're areas right now, so we can decide how to do things. Area number 2 is the open play. This was the design that we talked about at the workshop, right, the soccer field. And then the cost estimate. I don't know if everyone can read it on here. But essentially the items that we brought up in this open play area was we're just putting in the path. We're grading the field and we're putting in the path that you see there. So if you look at your cost estimates on both sides, there's an A column. I'll try and do that. See if this works. So there's the A column and then there's the B column. So A was always something that you can do first, kind of get it to a minimum, get things going, and then B was always the wish list. If funding was not an issue, you can always get B done, and that would complete the entire phase or the design that the board essentially approved in the workshops. So as you're looking at these, so you can see the difference with this. And again, the cost for phase A is $123,510. Any questions or discussions on this phase as we're going through each one of these areas? I know open play was kind of low on your list, but I wanted to hit these all in order. Okay. Area 3 was a sled hill, right? If you remember, this was the area. This was the design we talked about. and everything, and the signage, the black diamond, blue square, green circles in terms of different areas that you can sled down. This was the estimate that was on here. So in this estimate, we essentially just said we're going to provide some signage, kind of get some electric up there and put the one light at the top, right? The one muscle light that would kind of shine down on all the different areas. So that total for the first phase per se was $109,000.
One Musco Lake is like what's right now over the tennis or the volleyball.
Correct.
Those bits. There are 4, I believe, on each court, correct?
Correct.
So
This is one. This is one.
And do they make them
It may have two heads.
Kind of coming off one, like making almost a quad.
We're kind of assuming that it might have 2 heads on there right now to kind of just make this work. The bulk of this, I mean, the light is expensive itself, but the bulk of this was trying to figure out how to phase and get electric all the way out there and then up the hill. So as we talk about it, so the cul-de-sac was one of the ones that we talked about that would have to kind of happen first. That would make things cheaper to get.
And since we don't really know the makeup of that hill, I mean, making a foundation for it, is that going to present any problem? I mean, you're not going to have.
We talked to HR Green. That was a question that was brought up by staff. We talked to HR Green, and they said by everything that they did there with the tractors and running over and compacting it every single time, it should not be an issue. Any questions on the slide? Okay. Here's making this easy for 4A.
Questions are coming later, Jim.
4A, so this was the front, this was actually all around Village Hall, and then 151st, and then include the big main gate, right, going on the Ring Road. This was the main gate that we discussed. We showed everyone the location, kind of the imagery, what that main gate would look like. Talked about the back of Village Hall, the front and the back of Village Hall, right, the landscaping and so forth, and the Veterans Memorial that was directly behind Village Hall. This was option 2, I believe. We talked about the circular option. Imagery for that. Oh, I got that one here. So that was the Veterans. This was the updated imagery. So again, doing this option of breaking out the A and the B, a lot of those just the pavers, everything in the back, the Veterans Memorial, the option that you discussed, the round option, getting lights back here. We're assuming power off of Village Hall. We're kind of saying we didn't know about water yet, but we wanted to disperse water throughout the back. There's a little gazebo back here. A lot of it's all just pavers. The monument work, the granite, the wood, and so forth. So all that's included here. But the one thing that we did break out between A and B is A was essentially the back of Village Hall. To keep costs to a minimum, we didn't do the front of Village Hall. So even if we had some landscaping, lighting, everything, the main system would kind of be in front, in the back. And then you can see some money that's in option B or phase B there, that would be just to kind of continue it to the front, once you did landscaping in front. We also took the main gate that was at the main ring road, we put that in option B, we put that as down on the list. That was for later phases.
So the $7,500 for water service, that's just distribution being back here? I mean,
Try to figure that out.
Still tapping off what's in the building, right? You're not bringing in new service?
We're not, because we didn't discover that yet. We didn't figure out how much we can actually. We're assuming we can, but we just put this under 7,500.
Is that for watering or is that for resident use? Is that
for watering and spigots and everything out there, drinking fountains, whatever it may be? It's just a placeholder for right now until we get into the design.
You're thinking about Northern Illinois American Life, or are you talking about putting in a well?
No well. This is. You're either it's either you're tapping off of here to do whatever you actually need, or that's a discussion during design to say, it's like we're watering everything else and some of the other things, we're filling up the tank at the well here and watering everything inside. That's a,
I know there's a couple wells on the property. I don't know if they're working.
there's one that is not working yet.
Right. Would this particular area of water service, it being a placeholder and all that, I get all that, would that in any way affect the section where the splash pad would be?
Nope, totally different. Water, or when we get into that area, that water was actually brought to that area. There is a hydrant right there that was planned ahead of time.
Can you tell me what the shelter is? I don't recall. Did you see a render or anything of that? Is that part of the, that's not part of the bedroom, so, right? Oh, that's the one that would be right out here?
Yep.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
okay.
That was it.
Did you have a concept on that? I don't remember.
No, it was just
I think it was just a
for right now, it was just the main focus was because we had 3 different veterans memorials, just kind of saying, which veterans memorial would you want, and then feeding off that design lines.
So I had a question for Christina, given that she was heavily involved in the master plan and part of the Parks Committee and part of, the whole active core design process, and you were not able to be at the last workshop, so have you had a chance to review these? And I was curious if you had any thoughts.
I did not actually review these at this time, but I'm actually okay with any of them, whatever the board chooses to do or proceed. The only question I had, and this might be a little premature, but is all of this like handicap accessible? I'm assuming so, right? Right. Okay.
Actually, even the fishing deck is the only real part about that is making it handicap accessible. More.
And the new swing that's proposed in active core is an ADA swing, so wheelchair can be pushed on.
Yeah, we made a real big concern on the entire active core that it's handicap accessible everywhere. Any questions on the back of this, and costs and pricing and so forth? Okay. That was the estimate. Next option was your 4B area, was 4B. This is the biggest area that we discussed. So this takes everything from the Veterans Memorial north, straight out of here. So that is your village, the path that's right before it, right? The path that we'll discuss, the village green, the central node, and then the amphitheater, like the lawn seating area, the step seating area, the actual amphitheater, the stage, concession buildings over here, and then some parking lot and parking areas. So this was kind of the main design we just discussed.
For the walking path, you have $278,000. How long is that?
Every one of these paths that you see around here.
Yes.
And then on the sides, that's all concrete.
This goes around from what point, like from the street area to where the...
Showing right here.
Right, if you look at it, all these areas, all these joints.
That's all part of that one, number 10.
Let me go check.
Yeah, if you remember, we said, let's make those concrete and wider so that we can drive service trucks on them, or... Sorry.
No, it's good.
Yep, that was kind of a catch-all for a lot of the concrete, site concrete, that included like the steps, the piers, everything that was going out there.
I'm curious as to why you separated out numbers 6 and 7 and put it in phase B as opposed to including it in phase A.
6 and 7, sanitary sewer was only needed for concession, so the general consensus was the concession building can be done later. We can always add that later.
That was the consensus of the design team?
Of the committee that we met with. Trustee Burien, Trustee Rogers,
The
staff.
schematic design team?
Correct.
Okay.
However, yeah. So trying to keep, as a design professional, we're saying this would be great if you can do it all at once. There's efficiencies in construction, right? You're running a sanitary sewer, storm, you're making a mess once, you're making this entire area. But cost-wise, we wanted to give you options to say, here's an A, like that we think you can kind of live with. And then there's the amphitheater, right? We talked about there's no lights, right? We're planning for lights, theatrical lights, right? We want to make sure that the system can hold it for the future. You can always add to them later, but there's no lights, it's just empty conduit. There's no sound, there's no speakers there, but there's empty conduit going to speaker locations. There's the walking, like the node is not in that first area, that first phase. The farmers' pads are not in that first phase. The lights around the green are not in the first phase. These are just ideas that our subcommittee kind of put together and said, this is an option for you. You can choose to take some of these, add more, do whatever. That's what this discussion is tonight, to say, here's all our options.
So my initial gut reaction, if you're going to do it right the first time, do all of these things now. I mean, no matter how we look at it, no matter how we get around it, it's going to be a lot of money. And then we get back to your last sheet and we talk about over the span of 8 years how much is this inflation and the cost of construction. And I totally get trying to separate stuff out to make this part of the price tag look more appealing, but in reality, what's the phrase? Yes.
That is the discussion for tonight. So we wanted to give option A, option B, and option C for the board to consider. What you decide on how to move forward today is what your discussion. But just to make a kind of a logical breakdown of each one of these areas and give you the thoughts of how we broke this out today. So going really quick, so we talked about the area, we talked about the design that the committee, that we had at the workshop, everyone approved or everyone agreed on that design. And then when you got into this here, so again, the concept was you have a stage building, you have the steps, the tiers, you'd make that really nice. You're going to see a bigger price in terms of sod instead of seed. We want to make sure that this area is up and running fast for Homer Fest, for anything else, that we're not waiting a season or two for the seed to set, right, so it doesn't get trampled. But then the node in the center is gone, right, in that area. It's in area B. Farmers market pads that we talked about, everything. So the green itself would be shaped because you're going to have mass grading, you have the heavy equipment out there to do the whole area. We essentially need to grab the earth and the dirt from the Veterans Memorial all the way to the amphitheater, use all that to shape it. So at that point, you're doing the green at the same time, getting everything in order. And then the green will be shaped like they call it turtleneck. And then we have some walks around there, and then the storm sewer around that also. So that's all being put in at the same time. So that's there. And then stubs of electric to it if you wanted to do lights later, or the arches, or the farmer's pads, the sound, all that stuff was in phase B.
Are we looking for a consensus from the board on those farmers market paths? Because I personally don't think that they should be. That's my personal. I mean, is it too early to give that opinion? Are you looking for that opinion now?
I think when we get to the summary, then the board can kind of say what is the amount of dollars that you want to spend, how do you want to move forward, what phases. We can have that discussion at the end, and then we'll go from there, and you can pick and choose. So this was just kind of giving you a synopsis of what we kind of went forward with for the amphitheater. Any questions on why we broke out things in certain areas and so forth? Okay. Area 5 was the activity area, right? Splash pad. Oh, there's the design. One cost that you will see in there that kind of came afterwards was from the community is kind of adding a path through this area just to meet back up with the active core. It's not in the design, but it's actually in the cost estimate, so it's there for your review.
Is that number 11?
Comes up so tiny on the screen.
No. 9? Yeah, to the north.
To the north, right. Yeah.
I see that's included in it.
Right. So area A, so in phase A of this site, we're essentially grading, and we're just putting in that path. So if you remember, there's a bike path that goes right past Veterans Memorial. It goes into activity area and it goes into open play and connects there. So that portion, there's a $13-something thousand around there in each of those 3 phases, 3 areas that we allocated the cost. So even if you said, let's just do the Veterans Memorial in the green, I'd have a path that would just die. I'd probably have to have the discussion and say, do you want to pick it up and run it through activity area and through open play to connect it so it's continuous. But for design, for this purpose, that portion of the path that's in that area is in that estimate. So that total came to $47,000. Any questions on this area? Okay, next area was the fishing deck. Recall the design that we talked about? Putting a deck, having the deck here, having a path coming all the way up, putting a little seating area there, and then having a path that would connect to the bike path that's along 151st. So again, the consensus of the committee was just leave that as by itself, because that's a later phase. I think everyone thought there was going to be a later phase. Just leave it all in A. It wasn't worth breaking up. So all the costs are in column A. And that totals $373,000.
And this reflects input from our last meeting, right, where we were talking about not going around the back side of it to the east, where we were talking about concentrating on one side of it.
Yep. Any questions on this design, this estimate real quick? Okay. So those were areas that we were originally hired to do. As design kind of evolved, we threw in some other areas that we kind of talked about. So area 7 was the cul-de-sac. A lot of that discussion started with saying, how do you get to the sled hill? And with the children, boots, and the sled and everything, how do you drag them through active core or around the path or across some of the culverts and get them there. So the discussion led to maybe we should bring the cul-de-sac back into the discussion. So we just took, there's no design because this wasn't part of our schematic design. We didn't do this, so this is just the section of the map that we had from before. The discussion did lead into, with the popularity of the events that we've been having, is trying to get more parking on this cul-de-sac. So we talked to HR Green. The estimate that you kind of had here, all these items up top that you see here were just estimates from the first one, right? First estimate that we did, we kind of escalated it to $2020. But you can see these line items here that we added more parking, expanded parking on one side, so we estimated we can add another 69 spots, a total of 157. Electrical service for the sled hill, so the cul-de-sac would have lights, street lights, but we'd have to break that off to kind of just feed the sled hill. So it's a little placeholder there. And then because the entire cul-de-sac is built in the middle of the 319 grant, there's some type of bar and sharing that you'd have to do. If you wanted to add more parking, you're adding more impervious area, so that means you're taking up more 319 grant. You'd have to transplant or put plants somewhere else, grow 319 grant somewhere else. So that's part of the design process.
And you mentioned at the last workshop that something had already been done. Is that just the engineering part of it?
When this was planned, the mass grading out there was completed. So the swales around there are done, the mass grading is there. There's no stone out there, right? They didn't do that, it's just mass grading. So if you walk out there, you can kind of tell, it looks like there's a swale on either side, there's a path on the right.
So the additional 43 gauge covers.
Site grading and excavation, cleaning it up, doing whatever's out there because it's been sitting for a while. These were estimates from before, so we didn't dig into this one again because it was kind of let's throw this in there for discussion.
Thank you.
How about given that it's going to impact the 319 area, is there going to be any challenges to using MFT funds? I mean, are there any, restrictions on using MFT, since we'd be in 319, we should probably be aware of that.
No, I don't believe it would be.
Well, previously, when they mentioned that if we touched the 319 area, that we would lose that grant money.
No, there may have to be some mitigation in some other areas as was mentioned, but I believe as long as we're relocating some areas and we're not just totally eliminating them, I think that can be worked out. I don't see that as being an issue.
Well, we got to be careful about that. I don't even want to go there right now.
I mean, everything has to be permitted properly, but
We just wanted to make sure we put a line item there so we knew that there's an HR Green Toast, put down a $30,000 allowance for that mitigation. So,
That's the mitigation that you're
right. In the end, it may be cheaper and the board may decide just keep the design the way it was and not get into a 319, just do the cul-de-sac as it was planned for.
without all the additional parking.
Right.
I think we need the additional parking spots.
That was 157 just on that cul-de-sac road?
There was 88, and if you added the 69, I think it was, if I'm doing my math right, it got to 157.
And it's definitely needed.
I hear your events are getting popular, so. Again, these are all options, right, for discussion. The reason we kind of threw this in was because the cost to run electric out to the sled hill and get people out to the sled hill and trying to figure that out the price was going up. So it was like, you needed parking anyways, get people closer to that, right, with kids and everything. It kind of moved up in the ranking of discussion. Any questions on the cul-de-sac? Okay. Number 8, the parking lots that we never thought we would ever do are coming back for discussion. So number 8 is, again, we didn't design this or do anything. This was what we call kind of like the 151st Street parking lot right next to Village Hall. This was always, if 151st Street expanded, you lose all the parking in front of Village Hall. So this would be the replacement, right next to Village Hall. So I know there's a lot of parking to the side between you guys and the library, but this would be kind of replacing all the parking in front.
So we're losing all of that parking in front?
You would essentially may get some parallel parking if designed right, Mike, but all the regular parking that you had would just get you done. So our assumption when we're looking at it, just saying a lot of that parking in front may be just handicap accessible, parallel, trying to work that out, but other than that, I'll let
In spot count, how many would we be losing, how many would we be putting in with that as envisioned for spot 8?
You had to get me on that one. I do not know. It's a good question. I do. Again, we just threw in the numbers from the last time just for discussion. This wasn't part of that scope, so we just said, here's the cost estimate from the first master plan, and then we just escalated the cost that was there.
Hypothetically speaking, because I'm not even really sure of the time frame when we're talking about the expansion of 151st. Hypothetically, when do we see that happening in terms of beginning to end?
I would say the earliest that construction would start, assuming we're going to be looking to apply for funding this spring. Assuming everything went perfectly, we're probably looking at a couple of years before a shovel would even hit the ground.
We have it in that larger option C, the scheduled out. We moved that to like the 3rd year.
Thanks.
Just to make sure that you didn't get caught without parking. Any questions on this parking
Can we
lot?
use NFT for that as well?
For the road
Number 8, that parking area?
I would have to check that.
I'll ask the same question about 9 too, the public works parking lot, so while you're checking on 8,
Be prepared. Okay.
If we can use it for the cul-de-sac.
It's a dedicated road.
Correct. Yeah, lot is dedicated.
Thank you.
So now we go ahead, so parking lot 8, any questions? Anything else? Parking lot number, or area number 9, we're calling the Public Works parking lot, right? That was kind of overflow, and everything else that was there. That was the next spot that we put everything at from the master plan. Again, threw it in for discussion, took all the numbers from the original master plan, escalated them to 2020 numbers. Any questions on this parking lot?
Does anybody remember what the impetus was for that? I mean, it seems like an awfully big parking lot for the public works area. There's not that many cars over there right now, so I don't remember in the first phase.
We're calling it Public Works. It wasn't for Public Works. It was just because 151st.
That's where it was?
Just because of where it was. That is parking for the entire park. That was public parking.
But was it in mind, and you were sharing my have more because of the play area that potentially we were talking about having creative fields there and easy parking in that immediate proximity?
Yeah, by process of elimination, you were kind of losing areas to put parking throughout without losing play areas. So this was one of those little dead zones. You can always add more there. Any questions on this beautiful parking lot? Okay. And then active core, right? Changes to active core. We added an area 10. So this was, when we originally talked about it, just saying we were allocating a spot for future courts and the swings. Right? You kind of see the swings here. And the future courts. Then if you look at the estimate, we essentially said the future courts, the lights, the fencing, the asphalt there, a lot of the concrete that was going to them, that is in all column B. And then column A was essentially things that we just needed just for the swings. So got your swings, drainage that's in there, you have to connect to the nature play area, get the drainage underneath. And you can see the option that's in there for poured in place rubber to match everything else that's in active core, but we did show an option for mulch if absolutely necessary.
So yeah, this is one that kind of gave me a little bit of a sideways look when I looked at it, because the original idea was to put in some swings, get some other kind of use out of that area. So this is not only, it seems like, $140,000 for a $12,000 swing set is like, we've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous, but so you're talking about the poured in place is going to go, that's not necessarily at the swings, or is that somewhere else?
It's at the swings. That is covering, so the $45,000 for the engineered wood fiber mulch. That would match nature play, but underneath swings and everything, right. And to match what we got there, you have to add the $35,000 in poured in place.
Why are we putting in some more hard courts, number 24 right there?
That is
all that other
in
stuff.
column B.
Right, but what are you referring to there?
These courts.
Pardon?
Can you see the drawings on the picture? These courts right here.
Oh, well, that's...
Future.
That's all future. Again, active core wasn't, we weren't supposed to visit active core back again, but we did a design charrette to see if we can put the splash pad up in active core. And then we said, if we're doing that, let's fit the swings. If we can do that, make sure we have a placeholder for the future courts. And then splash pad came up, right? Went back to activity area. So what was left in this area was the future courts and the swing.
And if I'm correct, Beth, we got feedback right after the active core opening about residents wanting to kind of have a little more age range in what they could do back there. The smaller kids couldn't necessarily do the ninja course, or some of the really small ones wanted to touch the soft plants and go into the teepee area, but there was nothing kind of in some of those other age areas. Is that correct? So this kind of answers.
Well, just what I heard, being out in the community, nothing formal.
Right.
They were looking for swings.
Right. I mean, we do have 100 acres here now.
And the mulch is an option because there is some mulch out there in the nature play area, but personally I prefer the pour and play again, just because we have that ADA swing out there, and all of the other areas are important play. And I think that when you think about this type of material, you have to really think long-term. I mean, the mulch, you can say is, $5,000, but that's a continual upkeep and putting it in and in and in. And I think you would get to that 35 pretty quick.
Any questions on this cost? This area? Okay. So to the decisions we have to talk about. Summary and options. In your packet, you've probably seen option A, right? So the idea, the concept between option A was what's kind of the least amount of money that you can kind of have a big impact and build off of. So this is where you kind of see the columns of the A's versus B's. So area 3A, so the first part of the sled hill, not the complete sled hill, just the light, right? That cost is in here. Area 4B, right? The village green and amphitheater. So the smaller version of this was the 3.7 million. Area 7 was a cul-de-sac road. And area 10A, which is the active core swings, that everyone kind of said should be the first thing that kind of just everyone wanted to do that. So that total for this option A was $5,416,000. So that was the smaller condensed version. Again, the board can do anything they want. You can just pull out and just say, I just want to do active core swings, and that's it. But these were, we kind of grouped this all and tried to give you all the information, kind of group them together for ease of use. Option B was kind of saying, let's get it to a point where we really don't need to touch it for a while, right? So open play is graded, right? So that's done. The sled hill's done. The initial portion of the sled hill, right? It's still usable. Village Hall, Veterans Memorial on 151st Street, right? So this is the back half of Village Hall and the Veterans Memorial. The next one again is the whole Village Green and amphitheater in its glory as designed. So the whole kit and caboodle for this area. So everything, this essentially finishes you up from the back of Village Hall to the amphitheater, including the concessions, Village Green, all that. So you will have one complete area, unified main area. Again, we added the activity area, 5A, which was just the path. So you're just connecting that path that's there. The cul-de-sac road we discussed, and then the active core swings. So that price together was $8,774,000. And then to go to option C was if we did that option B, which was everything in yellow here, you can see on the screen on 22. And then you just said, let's do one project a year for the next couple of years. I think the point that you kind of see on this is as you go year by year, the costs, as you were saying earlier, the costs do go up. Inflation, escalation, and so forth. You can break this out into 10 projects that we talked about. You can just make them into smaller ones. There's some inefficiencies if you do that, right? If you break them all out. So you can get these, some of these you can group together, right? The cul-de-sac road, the mass grading for the amphitheater and so forth. You're kind of getting the heavy equipment out once, right? If you're doing any grading, open play, you got the heavy equipment out here once. You're saving on mobilization. All right, you're getting that out there, and these guys are all doing it. So
Can you say that again?
there's, once you kind of have,
Cul-de-sac road and the...
you can kind of, if you kind of think of just kind of doing some grading on cul-de-sac road, all this from back here, right? You wouldn't have to bring equipment back just to do Veterans Memorial. You took it from back of Village Hall all the way out, just got this whole area done. You can do the open play area, grade that, right, because you got the heavy equipment out there. Those are just some examples of just having the equipment out here once where the contractor doesn't have to mobilize again, doesn't have to bring equipment again.
And that's reflected in option C?
As you see all the escalations, the more you can kind of group them. So we didn't get to the point where we said, if you grouped every single thing together, what's that?
Right, like did we get a grouping of the mass grading for all of these things?
Right.
Could we get a
That's the intent. If you actually did them, so if you did every project in 2020, that cost would be $14 million. 14,337.
No, I just mean the grading.
There's a lot more, you can.
You still have to do the remediation in those areas where you're not going to build.
Right.
Because I wouldn't do
I
the-
don't necessarily mean do, you know, all those, you know, 8,774 projects, but could we do the grading for those things all at
Sure.
once?
But
And figure
there's
out-
additional costs that go with seeding. Obviously, once they've made a mess, we have
Yeah.
to seed it, we have to do all that.
Does that make sense what I'm?
Yeah, absolutely.
It does, but I think you're.
Am I overthinking it?
No, I think you're looking at the beginning and the end of it and saying, why don't we put these together? And then if you ever come back and you say, I want to do the middle area, you're going to muck up everything you just did. You know, once you get in there, you're still going to have to open up the ground a little bit, you know, put things in. So I think you're going to pay twice for remediation. Maybe not a true twice, but you know, one and a half.
Okay, that makes sense, thank you.
I see your point though,
Yeah.
try to put them together to get one.
Data.
Right, but I don't think you'd save one.
So along those lines, one of the discussions we had was if you did just the amphitheater, right? The building, the steps, and so forth, left the green alone and not do that, you could do that later, right? But the reality is we need soil from the green to balance out by the amphitheater, so the whole area has to be done. Once you've done that, you got to seed it back again. And then it's kind of foolish to come back maybe a year later, 2 years later, dig it all up, put storm sewer, put the pads back in, run electric, you're taking it all up again, so.
So the 8.774 in option B, what does that look like, timeline? Is that a 2-year project? If we were to say we wanted to do everything in option B?
Where we're at right now, and we kind of briefly touched on that, it would be like, let's stay away from Homerfest, right, for this year. Design it, because it'd be a couple months to design once you approve it. Then design it, go out to bid and tell contractors, like, the fear is if you actually went out as quick as possible and said, we want you to be done in the summer, get it done as fast as possible. All the contractors are already booked up by that point, they're gonna throw numbers at you, you're gonna pay out the nose for a lot of these things. So if you actually tell them like, it probably works out better, like, stay out until fall, let's do construction in fall, and then finish up in spring, and then be ready for Homerfest the next year. That is an option that's there. Because the thing in my mind is getting the sod done. Like, we were throwing out ideas like, if we can get this done quickly, I can do the amphitheater. Somebody can go out there and grade, put sod down this season, right? The 2020 summer, end of summer and everything, and you're set for 2021 easily. You're there, right? So it's got time to set and do all that. But just again, by the time we're doing this and getting approvals and so forth, and then we haven't even discussed funding, you know, how long that may take or doing. Design is different from that. You can start design, do whatever, but.
But even if we didn't start construction until the fall of 20, still to get that entire project done, so we don't impact Homerfest in 21, it's still aggressive schedule though.
Yes.
Very aggressive.
I appreciate being on Homerfest committee. I appreciate that, but I don't think that, we want to get it done right, and if Homerfest has to move for one season, it can easily enough move for 2. Much more interested in getting the project done properly, with as few interruptions to it as possible. I was just wondering, is it a 2-year project? I think that's really aggressive to say, well, to put a shovel in the ground in the fall and be done by the next spring. But
if we were bid out now and they started breaking ground first of spring, you'd probably they'd finish up in fall, end of fall, and then you'd be set for the next year. Again, breaking ground, they could do mass grading in March at that point, right, when it's the first thaw. So you're not doing concrete, you're not doing all this stuff, you're doing the heavy machinery stuff, demoing all this stuff behind here. So it's a lot of the play of when your winter months are, when it's going to be rainy season, what can you actually do? Again, nobody can predict, like, Active Core got hit by how many rain days and everyone went crazy on that one. So if you try to plan that. So what we were thinking of is, it may work out best. You don't have to move, if you don't want to move Homerfest for 2020. Because we can tell the contractor not to start until after Homerfest. Don't even start it, don't even touch.
The goal is to get the most competitive bids. And maybe a fall letting will probably do that because we are not going to meet the spring letting competitive bid process.
Maybe John and Carrie, you can speak a little bit to the funding aspects of, that would be some of the funding that we talked about.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to John. Can you walk him through this?
Sure. I provided you a schedule that shows how much funds are available. The green line represents...
Is this available for folks so the residents can see?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But it's broken into 3 categories. Funding available if we were to have to pay for it all in fiscal 21. So from May 1st to 20 to April 30 of 21, we have about $3.8 million in fund balance coming from the MFT fund, the park fund, the capital project fund, and the bond fund. The following year, fiscal 22, we would have about $2,062,500 of home rule sales tax that potentially could be used as a funding mechanism. So that timeline is May 1 of 21 to April 30 of 22. The other ones are more aggressive. So if the board was willing to amend SOP number 2 with regards to what the bond fund can pay for, there is $3.86 million in the, there's an unobligated bond fund balance of $3.86 million that if the board chose to amend SOP 2 to allow for other capital project funding from the bond fund, those funds could also be available. And then I just put as a sidebar below that, some other funding things that would require further board action, like home rule sales tax or local motor fuel tax changes. And I gave you the increment of those.
One of the things that we talked about is the fact that it's because we were looking at bidding it in the fall, we go through 2 budgetary cycles then, which helps.
That's where the blue bar comes into play, because actually if you do that timeline, then you start, because remember home rule sales tax is kind of obligated for repaying the bond fund for this early retirement. So in 22 it frees up and it could be used for Heritage Park funding.
A couple of things that I found noteworthy on this under park fund reclass for the small park project for this year's budget of $300,000 that we talked about spending on a new park development within this village. And then a small park development of $250,000. So $550,000 for this next fiscal year and the year after that.
This is aggressive. This is what we have. This is kind of making funds available to do these major phases. But yeah, that's what that means exactly. We did budget $300,000 this year for small park improvement. We forecasted $250,000 for fiscal 21. What that number in the green, the $3.8 million, says that we're not going to do that. We're going to apply it towards Heritage Park.
So one of my concerns, and I don't have the answer to this, but with 143rd Street widening project beginning in probably 2022 or 23, and we're responsible for the sidewalks along that road. Are motor fuel tax funds available for sidewalks?
MFT is on the schedule, but I'm not sure if it's a good funding mechanism because it's kind of low right now. We use a lot of MFT to do the ring road out here.
Right.
$3.3 million.
I'm just wondering where we're going to get the money to fund sidewalks.
Well, there's going to be
State Street or Lamont Road all the way to Bell. If we're not thinking about that right now and planning for the next 8 years, where are we getting that money from? What's our source of revenue for that? Because it feels like every available dollar we're using is going to be going into this. That's kind of my initial reaction to seeing this, and that concerns me.
Yeah, so we're not proposing that you do this. We just wanted to give you all the options. And you're right, there are some significant policy decisions the board has to make. When you determine how much money do you want to allocate to Heritage Park, and what does that mean long-term for some of the other projects. It's that balancing act that you guys have to make some tough decisions about.
You could take on new debt and fund it. I know Mike had talked about the road projects. Those are probably going to get some grant funding. Typically, we get 80% funded on those. We only pay 20%. Generally, knock on wood, that's, so the projects are large, but the dollars are surprisingly not as big as you would expect.
Do those grants and that tend to typically cover a bike path or sidewalks, like we're talking about for 153rd?
Well, for 151st Street, that would cover the bike trail and any sidewalks, drainage, you know, pretty much the whole project. As John had mentioned, that would be, typically it's an 80-20 split. So
143rd?
that I would have to check to see. That's going to be kind of a unique situation because it would be built as part of the county's project. I don't know if there's really ways that we can apply for grant funding for a portion of the county's project. And the timing may be
I know, the way they're doing it,
hard to
three
time
phases
together.
every 2 years is kind of off-putting, which that's kind of alarming to me, that how do we plan for that, you know?
Well, fortunately, we have a new revenue stream that we started in September. It's the MFT Renewable Fund, which is approximately, that's $420,000 a year. It's brand new. We didn't know it was coming last year when we did the budget. That's what that number on this schedule is. I would rather retain it for road projects personally than apply it towards Heritage Park, because the fund balance, the revised fund balance projection at the end of this fiscal year on April 30th is about 500 grand. So, not a lot. Not really. It's a fund that builds up over time and then it spends down quickly. So I think we've done that, and now I'd like to see it get built back up again.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what is the timeline? What, if you're going out to, I mean, yeah, we're always going to have money issues, and where do we get it? And, you know, I'm not making light of that. We'll always have that, everybody will. But, you know, work it backwards for me. If we're looking to get out, you know, into the ground in the fall, you got to design this, still has many iterations and many hiccups along the way.
Depending on, so to answer your question, depending on what direction you kind of, if you give us direction today, I can go back to the engineers, work with staff to kind of say, this is who I need, this is what I need to get the project done for this scope. Come back in January for approval in terms of design wise. We're looking to get out in May for 5 months, depending on how much you approve tonight so far. For proposal, bid. Actually go out for bid for contractors. And again, we have some play in that because we're really telling them, like, you don't have to, like the guys that are busy over the summer doing a lot of the other public work or maybe some schools and stuff like that, we want to make sure we're tracking them too and we're getting competitive bids. The thought is, say, you don't have to start until like September. Right? Then you have that time from September, October, November, see what you can actually get done. If they can get the building done and get all these other things finish up in the spring, and then, you know, a couple months in the spring for them to, just in case that we have a rainy season again, just to finish up the fine touches of everything. There's the only long lead items on the entire project, maybe just some of the steel that's on the building. Other than that, it's concrete, sod, conduit wiring, right, stone. If we do any of the arches, like the wood that's there, that's a little bit of long lead on them because they're curved. So not terribly. It's not like waiting on HVAC items or air conditioning systems.
I'm not ready to make a decision or direction yet.
No, I think it's here. I think we need, this was for discussion only, at least we get to see.
Well, you mentioned your direction tonight, so that's why I'm like,
I don't think that's fair.
It can be whenever, quite honestly to us, if you need a month or 2 or 3 or whatever it is, or if nothing comes out of it, it's not, just trying to hit timelines.
Right.
We're
as long as we're cognizant of that.
totally.
Gotcha.
As long as you know you're
Or we'll go
on
to another
schedule.
season.
Right.
How long will it take you to design a phase?
If you were to do like just the active core swings, that's a month to get out, right, month and a half or anything.
How about one of the more
The
substantial?
bigger ones, you're 5 months. I haven't talked to consultants, so I haven't seen, and I'm assuming 4, 5, 6 months. Again, we're trying to meet meetings, we're trying to have all that stuff, trying to make sure we hit board meetings and so forth, and then get out.
So you're saying if we had said to you tonight, okay, we like option B, we're still 6 months away from even looking at the final plans, right? But,
Yeah, from getting
So
bids.
that's-
From getting bids.
so it's June,
Yeah.
put it out,
If you said option, we're just talking option B.
you're right.
Again, I can probably expedite that a little bit more. I have to talk to the consultants first, so I don't want to speak for them, because of everything that we're moving on, what we're working on here, but,
But the back-end time deadline would be, you would want to have bids secured and ready to award a contract by the end of August.
probably before that. If I can do June, July, right, get approval from the board and get a contractor to be approved in that time frame, he can order the glue lamps, he can order all that stuff, so that he's installing them before winter hits. So the long lead times. So if I didn't have those items, I can be like, well, he just needs a couple of weeks to just get mobilized. And if he just needs to start September 1st, I can release him in August. But he's got to pour foundations, he's got to do steel, he's got to do shop drawings, he's got to get all that ready. So once you get past June, July, letting, somewhere around there, he's starting to cut close and trying to get it winterized or get things, the roof done and everything for winter.
So I guess what is the direction here for us to take this, digest it, what?
Yeah, so our next meeting is January 8th for the next village board meeting. So I think that will give us time. We need to get a proposal. I mean, we need to know what the consensus of the board will be so that we can actually then bring back a vote on which one of these elements do you want to move forward and what that scope's going to look like. Because then Jim's got to go back and put together his scope of work, and you guys are going to have to approve that contract.
So do you need anything from me before now, January 8th?
No.
The only thing I would ask, if you do January 8th and say, Jim, these are I want to do option A or option B, whatever it is. I can't go to the next 2 weeks. I need time to get numbers from consultants and so forth. So it'll probably be a month board meeting wise, unless you want to do a special board meeting. I probably need 2 weeks alone just to kind of get numbers from consultants and then compile it. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Is there any old business?
Yeah, but can we do it after your visit?
Or no? I would prefer to do it after the meeting.
I didn't hear what you said.
I was wondering if we should do
Should
this
change
first.
up.
I still didn't hear it.
Are you amending the agenda?
Well, I was making copies and I was hoping he was going to wait for his turn, and so I wanted to mention that during the amendment motion. Just do new business first, and then I'll
What, should we do it now?
That's what I'm asking.
How long is it gonna take? What you wanna put first?
Well, we have to go over Christina's report and I have a response. And then I have a couple items on new business and one on
You still have a second session tonight too?
Well, a motion needs to be made if you want to amend the agenda, which it should be done under the amendment.
It sounds like the majority of what you're saying you want to do is going to be under new business anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's still business first, it doesn't matter, it's going to be the same amount of time no matter what order we go in. But whatever you want to do.
Let's stick with,
Okay. So,
all right, so the,
old business?
well, is there any old business?
Yes. And I have copies to make for the things that I'm going to be talking about anyway. I'll give you copies and email you whatever you need. Okay. So it's a cheap. It's a one-page. Yeah. No.
Is there enough copies for Carrie and?
I was having trouble with the copier because it was a new copy. I can go around more copies. Ruben, do you have one?
Yeah, hang on.
Does Sharon have one?
So I've had some conversations with members of the Parks and Recreation Committee, and I read the minutes from October 21st first, and I made copies of the relevant portion that I'm referencing. It has to do with the member Walter's report that he was given at that meeting. And also, because I was late on November 13th, I missed the reason for why Trustee Rogers decided to table the RFP for Glenview Walk Estates. And I want to know why we have not brought that issue back to the board to discuss, perhaps even in a workshop form. I was told by committee members that they have not been given reason why it was tabled. I also have to inquire as to why the December Parks and Recreation meeting was canceled. I was told by several committee members that Co-Chair Rogers conveyed to his staff there was nothing that needed to be put on the agenda, so the meeting was canceled. So after having discussions with 4 of the members of the committee, I feel the concerns that John expressed in the October 21st meeting are valid. It appears that the committee has been cut out of the discussions related to Heritage Card other than what is made available to the general public. The committee was apparently told by Co-Chair Rogers at the October meeting that having a member of the Parks and Recreation Committee present on the schematic design team for those meetings for Heritage Park would constitute a quorum and thus violate OMA. This discussion is not reflected in its entirety in the approved minutes, but multiple committee members have confirmed to me that those were the statements that were made. I challenge the accuracy of that claim that it would constitute a quorum, because I don't think it does. In fact, I called the Attorney General and confirmed that it does not. The members stated that they were invited to email their input to the design team and staff. Some of them have expressed to me that their recommendations were either overlooked or ignored. These are their opinions and feelings, based on what had been presented to the board and to the public. It does not appear that their concerns and recommendations have been factored into the current schematic designs. Mayor Yukich has previously expressed a desire for transparency, and yet the only parties involved in those meetings are staff, the architect, and trustees Rogers and Variance. There is no reason why a member of the Parks and Recreation Committee cannot be appointed to that committee. There's still time for them to do that. At the very least, I feel like they should have been given this same information at least concurrently, or we should be allowing them the opportunity to give input before we choose to make a direction. I can understand why the owner-architect-contractor meetings should not necessarily be public due to the occasional sensitive nature of the discussions, but I do not believe the same applies with regard to the schematic design phase and the meetings that are taking place at Heritage Park. With regards to the canceling of the December meeting, I have to point out that there are 2 very pressing items that could have been discussed by the Parks and Recreation Committee in December. First, the tabling of the RFP request for Glenview Walk Estates. The fact remains, in the Parks and Recreation Committee, they worked on that project for 18 months evaluating future park sites within the village, and it was the committee's recommendation that Glenview Walk Estates be at the top of the list of priorities. This process was a recommendation for a park in that subdivision was presented in detail at a board workshop in April. Now it appears someone wants to revisit or entertain the notion of an intergovernmental agreement with the township for the next park development. I will go on record tonight that any IGA with the township for a joint park development project is a pipe dream with the current supervisor in control. I have personally worked with Supervisor Myers for the Homer Community Fest for 4 consecutive years, so I'm speaking from personal experience when I state that an IGA is a pipe dream. If you consider for a moment the 6-page IGA for this year's Homer Fest, just so that the general public attending Homerfest could use public parking on public property that the township maintains. This IGA took almost 9 months to finalize for parking. The supervisor clearly continues to resist a simple path adjoining our 2 public park properties, even though we have offered to pay the full cost associated. And yet we're going to go back and possibly entertain an IGA or a cooperative development agreement for an entire park. For me, that notion is ludicrous. The second pressing item that could have been discussed on the committee is the recent updates of the schematic designs, because multiple members of that committee have expressed to me that they feel completely cut out of it, and now we're looking at approximately another $15 million. Why is this not pressing enough to discuss with the committee? Why is the committee's input being skipped once again? Do the residents' public representation on the committee mean anything? Do they have a worthwhile opinion on what's being considered? Do we not want to hear their opinions on the planning phases before we make the decisions? Given the SOP of the Parks Committee, why does the committee exist if we are going to ignore the SOP and not even hear or consider what they have to say? Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, is there any other old business?
I have a question. What day would have the Parks and Rec Committee date fall on? Is it the 3rd or the 4th Monday?
It is the 3rd.
I was just curious.
And I know we didn't necessarily have all the numbers, but it could have been filled for another day.
I know, but just being a chairman of the Parks and Rec Committee in the past, we have typically always canceled the December meeting with all the other meetings going on and the homework for the holidays. We always thought that canceling the December meeting was giving everyone a break from everything that's going on.
Right.
Just to reiterate that, I just, because I've canceled them in the 4 years that I was the chairman.
Yeah, we were co-chairman, that's.
Yeah.
And the timing, you know, with regard to Heritage Park and timing of the essence and wanting to get these numbers as quickly as possible and going out for bid at the optimum time. The same applies to going to Local Estates, and yet the committee doesn't even know why it's been tabled.
Well, if they were at the November meeting, they were made aware why it was tabled. It was a very large discussion on it, so if they weren't there, they'll have to, you know, call Harry, she can explain, probably more clear than anyone. She led the discussion.
Okay. Next.
Is there any other old business? Is there new business?
There is, Mayor. Okay, so I wanted to start off by saying the report I had provided for you guys was just, it's just my way of communicating to all of you at once the tasks and the challenges with the current clerk role. I've also included some recommendations to simplify these challenges and help provide better communication to the board and the businesses of Glen. The clerk's position hasn't changed since we became a village in 2001. So one of the first things I wanted to look into was how to revamp and reorganize the role. Once I started doing this, I realized there was no SOPs in place, which makes things very difficult for a new person walking into the position to do the job to the best of their ability. I asked staff where to begin and felt like basically a fish out of water because yes, I knew the duties, but I didn't know how to do the duties. The village manager, myself, and staff started to make SOPs. The SOPs that we're putting into place will benefit everyone, especially a new clerk coming into office, so they are not wasting time asking how to do every aspect of the clerk role every 4 years. Soon after that, I realized the clerk's office needed a little cleanup and organization. No fault to anyone, it was just more so leftover of what to do with items from when we moved from the old village hall to this one. Once we dissected each cabinet and loose paper, we made room for the deputy clerk in the clerk's office. It just made sense for the clerk and deputy clerk to share an office for simple flow of things and better communication. Again, I've only been a clerk for 6 months, and I have a lot of questions that the deputy clerk is more up to date on in regards to the duty of the clerk. That's just kind of my reason why I'm doing this report, just so you guys know. And when Carrie had done her 100-day report, I also wanted to do one, but with all the backlog and all the tasks and learning and how to do everything, I was unable to get a 100-day report, so now I'm at a 6-month report. I'm going to move on to the business registration and licensing. And you guys have all my reports. If you guys have any questions as I'm going through, please feel free to ask her after or whatever. The business registration and licensing, this was a little bit more of a challenge, which I felt and still feel it needs a little more vamping. When I came into office, there wasn't a real solid way of dotting all the i's and crossing the t's to make sure the follow-through and the communication was being held up to par. We were using Excel spreadsheets, and staff and I felt using a software such as iWorks was a more professional way and would make less room for error. So far the system is promising and will keep us on top of things. Gina V and Gina S both feel that it's positive and that it's a lot easier to use and makes more sense. As you can see in the report, I provided an Excel spreadsheet, but the reason why I did Excel spreadsheet is because at the time iWorks wasn't available. But that will explain how many businesses have fallen through the cracks. There wasn't a real solid way to keep track of who still owed, who paid late, etc. This was done all manually, which created a lot of room for error. If you have any questions on the business registrations, I'm happy to answer them on the spreadsheet, or I can tackle that after the end of my little briefing here. The liquor, tobacco, and gaming, pretty much the same issues as I had listed above. There was no real system in place. There was no SOPs. It's more of when I kind of came in, it was more like a guessing game and wasting staff's time on how to do this and so forth. Before I go into the executive session portion of the report, I would like to express a few opinions, myself and a few others within the staff that had. So, the clerk's role is a part-time position and a part-time salary. A few years back, the clerk also took on the responsibility of the collector, which bumped up the salary a bit, but also added a lot more duties. The clerk's position is to be the official keeper of the minutes. The collector's role is everything else. These are pretty much two part-time positions combined into one part-time position. It's no secret that I feel that the duties of clerk and collector should be reevaluated. I want to make this very clear that I'm not looking for my role to get a pay increase or decrease my responsibilities. I just want everyone to understand that the clerk's current role is two different roles. There's a clerk role and a collector role that's combined into one. And for those who don't understand that, it's two different jobs, like I said, combined into one. My goal is to do what's best for the village. So moving on to the executive session minutes, I have provided a very detailed list of executive session minutes. There is one error, which Trustee Holtz had pointed out to me under 3F, that if I could explain. Where is that? So it says for the February 27th, 2019 minutes, they were draft minutes that were drafted before I was in office, and I had written in my report that it does not state one of the reasons why we went into executive session, which was personnel. And I did write in my report that there was 50 minutes of the 110 minutes, or I'm sorry, the 120 minutes that was discussed. It was actually flip-flop. So 50 minutes of it was actually executive session. It's not that really big of a deal or detail, but I wanted to make that point out because Ann had pointed it out. For 23 minutes, we did discuss personnel in the draft minutes. It was not documented. But for 50 of the remaining minutes, we did talk about executive session. So I just wanted to clarify that. So is there any questions on my report, or does anybody want to discuss anything? I took a lot of time into making this report, so I'd like to answer any questions, any concerns. I can explain the spreadsheet if anybody would like.
I went through the papers that you had written, and I've written my questions, but
sure.
I'll let you go through yours, and then I'll address yours all at the end rather than switching back and forth, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. So I can explain the business registration summary if you guys would like.
This is just 2019?
Well, it's a combination of 2018 and 2019, and I can explain which one of each is. So in the first line, is there a copy of it? No, it's just what it is. Okay. So the total number of brick and mortar businesses are 295, and the total number of home businesses is 225. So that is a total of 520 total businesses that we have in the plan. If you were to charge them a $30 registration/license fee, which I believe we are now changing the verbiage from registration to license, the total collection would be $15,600. The total number of brick and mortar businesses not paid in 2019 would be 28, and the total number of home businesses not paid in 2019 is 38, which would be a total of 66 businesses. So the registration fee is $30. The first initial late fee is an additional $30, but the village has the right to charge up to $750, depending on how late they are, if they do not pay, which would total a total of $49,500 in lost revenue that we did not collect for 2019. The total number of brick and mortar businesses not paid in 2018 and 2019, meaning consecutive businesses that did not pay their registration fee in 2018 or 2019, would be 7, and the total number of home businesses that are the same would be 22, so totaling 29 consecutive businesses that did not pay for 2018 or 2019.
No, 2018 is what we determined today.
No, it's 2018, so they did not pay in 2018 or in 2019. So
Oh, right, okay, so, but that was for the calendar year of 2018.
And 19. So they did not pay in 2018, and they did not pay this year as well.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that's what you were saying.
Yeah, so there's 29 businesses that kind of just, that fell through the cracks twice.
So is it 1 year we lost 49,500, or is it 2 years? So
That's
pick
just
a number.
in 2019.
So in 2019, 49,500.
$500 by not collecting the max amount of fee that we could.
I pointed this out in my response, and I will talk about it next, but for the record, the village has never assessed fines since this ordinance was adopted in 2004, ever. Not just 1 year. That was not the practice that was taking place.
Well, I think the point's different, is what you just, we never
I
give Christine, explain everything, and then everyone will have their turn to talk.
So part of the reason why I'm bringing that up, and I'll go through the rest of it and then kind of touch a little bit more on it. So the total brick and mortar businesses late of 2018 was 93. And I say late, not paid, I mean late. And then the total number of businesses, home businesses, was 73. So that would be 166 businesses that had paid late out of 520 for 2018. So the total paid after, so we roll into the 2019 year. So when we send out our business license registrations in December, we give them to, or we should be sending them out in November. There was a point where we kind of fell behind in years where if we didn't send it out in November, we would send it out in December, and then we would extend a grace period and so forth. So we extended the late period to January 30th. So the total paid after January 30th, 2019 would be 38 businesses, and then total that paid late without an assessed late fee would be 49. So basically what I'm saying is the total that we should have collected would have been $5,220, so we were short of $1,470. So basically the reason why I'm bringing this to your attention is because, as Ann had stated, we had never collected late fees. It is my goal to make sure that the businesses do pay on time, and if they don't, we start collecting late fees. It's important that we do make sure that they're up to date with their registration, especially if they have a gaming license or a tobacco or liquor or whatever kind of, any business, regardless of what it is. I feel that they should be paid on time. So I wanted you to know that, and then we had established a standard operating procedures of how we're going to go about that. So because we haven't done it in the past, I really just want you guys to know that it is my goal to keep you guys updated on where we're at with these business licenses, who's paid, who's not paid, and what businesses we would go door to door and say, I'm sorry, you have not paid, we are going to collect a fee, or we have to close your business temporarily until you do so.
This would be for the future.
For the future, yes.
Right, because everything is behind us, we can't go after them.
Yes, so we have to we're going to start new, fresh for 2020.
Well, I have a real basic question.
Sure.
Our current system of registration is an ordinance that has been adopted by the board. So the authority to relax that ordinance still rests with this board. So who's out there not, giving away the money essentially? I mean, that authority rests with us. That authority does not rest anywhere else. If we enacted that by ordinance, that would come back to this board. And I can't speak for before 2017, May of 2017, if you indeed say that, nothing's been assessed or collected since 2004. But nobody's asked for my vote to relax that, to waive that, abate it, whatever you want to call it. And that authority should rest here.
So can I address that question and actually ask Carrie to answer that? Because we talked earlier today regarding how the business registration ordinance, the language in the code, it simply wasn't there with returns in terms of the procedure, right?
So, a couple things. So, the original ordinance that you guys just amended last month to transfer this from a business registration to a business license was not what I would call a overly robust ordinance. However, it did, the old ordinance did lay out in black and white what the fee was for the registration, which was $30. It also was very clear what the late fee was, which was doubled, which was going to be $60. There is also a clause in the code, which is in the new code as well, that says after that time, after the late fee has been assessed, that the village, if it still goes unpaid, the village can then issue a fine, a ticket, a municipal fine, up to that $750. That was in the old code, that's still in this code. That is where there's flexibility, because when you issue a ticket, it's up to. So let's say Mr. Baber goes out for 5 businesses that aren't licensed and they've already been fined for the double fee. And he says, we're going to write you a ticket, you need to come before the hearing officer the next court day. Well, the ultimate decision on how much that fine is going to be the final decision rests with the hearing officer. We don't get to make that determination. There's a lot of different things that go into that determination by the hearing officer. But $30 initial fee and the late fee of the additional $30 is non-negotiable. Those are things that no one has the authority to waive.
Nor do they have the authority to waive if the hearing officer does assess a fine on that ticket that was by code compliance.
Yes.
Then that still would have to come, I don't know if it goes to the courts, the small courts or what, but I mean, all of these things are, these are the first steps in things that, it's a horrible word, but it's really crumble. This is when, I'm not going to do that, but, it's going to go somewhere else. And that just can't happen. You can't be doing that. There are rules, and those rules have to come back before the authorizing board and say, do you relax these or do you not relax them? We need to be kept in that loop.
And that's part of my report is from what I was, because I was a trustee before, if you remember. I don't remember being made aware of the lack of payment of business registrations. And that's my point, is saying that there's a clerk role and there's a collector's role. And I can, now that I've been in this position for 6 months, I can understand where you're supposed to be doing a part-time job where things can fall through the cracks, because businesses, I feel personally, and I've talked to Joe about this and other staff members, but I feel that the collector's role should be more of a staffing role, because somebody should be here for our businesses, during business operations, business operating hours, I'm sorry. For a business to get a license from me, or ask me a question, or need a liquor license, or ask for tobacco, or even new businesses coming in, I'm not here 40 hours a week, so it's more of like a catch-up game, where I still have to review my minutes, do executive sessions, be here for the meetings. I mean, it's more of like a full-time job to be doing both positions at the same time. So I can understand where things can fall through the cracks, and unfortunately, when I came in, the deputy clerk was not abreast to what the collection process was. And it was, for lack of a better word, very unprofessional on how we were doing this. It was more like just a binder, more like I said, a lot of room for error. Just a piece of paper with documenting and Excel spreadsheets, where now iWorks is actually, a godsend, because now they just input it in, you can print reports, you can look, you can see, you can pull up their name, and it pulls it all up for you. So the process is going to be a lot easier. But like I said, for the clerk to be in charge of that, it's a lot. It really is for, like I said, a part-time position. So yeah, that's one thing with the business licenses. And then you tack on the gaming and the tobacco and the liquor licenses, and then new businesses coming in. You have to go through that whole process and the meetings. It's, like I just keep saying, it's a lot for a part-time clerk to come and do. So I can see where things fall through the cracks. I can. However, it should be important that we make sure we are collecting funds and that we are doing the right things. So Carrie, myself, Joe, Gina, BGS, Janie, we all got together and came up with a standard operating procedure of who's doing what. Who's the first line of defense and who's the last line. And so I wanted to reassure you that this is one of my goals, is to make sure that we do collect every dollar that is due to us, because I think the businesses have found loopholes, and they didn't find me last year, or hey, I didn't have to pay the fee last year, and let's see if we can get away with it again.
Definitely try to take advantage for sure.
So, I mean, but we allowed it. It's not their fault, it's ours. We allowed it, and I'm not saying so much the board level, because we were not aware of it. So, but now that we are aware, like I said, my plan is to report to you guys on a regular basis of where we're at, every month until the businesses are paid or who's not paid.
And the only thing I was going to add is that the whole business license process is completely changed, like 180, 360 degrees, from the use of the software system that we now have in place to defining who's doing what, to amending the code and making sure that there's a clear process outlined in the new ordinance versus, what we had before. And then we're going to evaluate. All the letters have already gone out. And so now we're in the process of them coming in now before the end of the year. And we're going to be evaluating, we're going to be adjusting what that SOP is over the course of the next few months to figure out what's the most efficient way we can do this with the least amount of staff touches in the process. Because it doesn't make sense to have 10 people involved in one business registration application. It does not make any sense.
And I agree.
So that's what we're trying to do. And I think we've made humongous strides, Matt, Joe, all of us, Christina, in just figuring out what is it, kind of throwing everything out and starting all over. And so we're going to evaluate that as we move forward.
Well, with what you were just saying, the problem that we had is, yes, registrations weren't sent out. But every month, starting in January or February or March, everything was prepped. I had piles and piles and piles on my desk of business registrations, liquor licenses, tobacco licenses, and they were put on my desk to sign so the clerk could put them out at that time. Well, I've signed every one. Never stamped one. Every one of them are signed because I want to see who they're going out to, but did not know that they weren't going out.
Okay. I would like to be able to respond to the report in chronological order of her report, because I think my response addressed a lot of the concerns and probably some of the questions, because this is not the first time that the mayor, myself, Carrie, Christina, Joe, various staff members have had discussions on this. We've actually talked about it, 2 or 3 times with me, and then I know there were meetings that I wasn't at. And so I know everyone has concerns. I get it. I would like the opportunity to respond and see if some of that can be addressed, simply to save time, if that makes sense. So
go ahead. We're on business registration.
No, I was saying, why don't you give your report and then I'll respond and hopefully address those questions. So if people still have questions that I don't answer in my response, write them down and then we can go from there.
Well, given my portion of the report on the business registrations, like I said, the only thing that we can do now is move forward on the business registrations. I did have one question because the businesses from 2019 that are still out there that are not paid. The only question, I don't know if you had the answer for, but is how are we going to proceed with the 2020? Are we going to go in arrears and say, unfortunately, you have to pay, or we're starting fresh for 2020, okay. And then I just wanted to, like I said, let you guys know what the losses we have, what the steps moving forward are, and that it is a work in process, and that, again, that is technically a collector's role. So eventually, I'm going to be coming again before the board to say we need to reorganize or rediscuss the collector's role versus the clerk's role.
And I just want to add also, those $750 fine amounts would have to go before the adjudication judge.
Right.
So that's not, those weren't a given. Typically, during the court process with adjudication, if people come into compliance, they're not assessed a fine. Compliance ultimately is what we look for more often than not in situations where somebody's in violation. So just want to get that.
All right, but at the same token, if they did not get the first one, that means they didn't get it.
Right.
So the second one's coming around.
Sure. That would have been a case.
It's a few months later, so even if they opened it up at that point, or even if one was not sent out. So then you have the third one, where you're going to tell them afterwards, because I didn't want to do them in person. You're giving them a piece of paper and say, hey, you're behind 2 payments for this.
Right.
You didn't pay the first one, you didn't pay the penalty, now here's a one for $750. Well, when we discuss this, how do I blame them? I can't blame them. I wouldn't blame them. That's on us.
No, I think that's a misunderstanding. They've been given the original registration notice, they've been given late notices, telling them that they now owe $60. And then they are given hand-delivered letters by code enforcement, telling them that fines are imminent. The one thing that was not done was actually assessing those fines and writing them a ticket and sending them to adjudication court. They've been warned and told 3 steps along the process. Those registration certificates that you signed were, held in a file folder for when the formal payment would come in, and then the certificate would be mailed out.
That was my understanding what had happened.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's some confusion that can be addressed.
And just to take it a step further for clarification, the letters were mailed out. It's just a matter of when they were mailed out. And some, for the last few years that I can go back and see, some letters were sent out late or sent out in 2 different batches. So like maybe first group of business registrations may have been sent out in November, but the second set of the remaining businesses may have been sent out in December 14th when they're due December 31st. When it's sent out December 14th, it's around the holidays, businesses are sometimes closed, it may be hard to send their payment in or they may forget. So then we did give an extension of later dates, and they still weren't paid at that time.
Well, have we seen any extension letters? Have we seen anything? Because I talked to a couple of people, because I went into some businesses that they still don't have a registration of. Why don't you have it? We never got it. So if that's the case, and one of them I asked today, so did you have one in 18? He says, I don't remember. I don't believe I did, because I would switch it when I got the new one. Exactly what I do in my business. In fact, I don't even throw them out. I just put it right in front of it. So I've got it really since I started business. So he said this year that he honestly doesn't even remember seeing a bill. He was going to have to talk to his wife because, like me, my wife takes care of that. So, but the point is, if you've got a pile of registrations, that's what they would call them before, now they're going to call licenses, you still got that pile of registrations in front of you, and it is June at the time, that licenses board, that registration was supposed to be up right after that. We usually do in March that it's up, April and March. So what we ran into is just something that some of the people didn't even know. And as for the home businesses, there too, we don't even know if the home business is still in business. So I mean, but you still have a piece of paper that says this is a license for it, or the registration at that time, license is coming. Just looking at it would tell me that there's a problem, it's not going out.
So, as I said, I prepared the 500 or so certificates ahead of time in anticipation of when the form would come in and the payment, the certificate would be paid out. So obviously, if those people did not pay, the certificate did not go out. That doesn't mean that warning letters and late notices did not go out. They did. And I addressed it in my response, but I'll say now, what we have been heard, and you can ask staff because I'm sure they've all heard the same excuses as I have, that once the late notices go out, and specifically with regards to this past calendar year, they went out in February. So sometimes people's payment passes the late notice in the mail. Sometimes people claim that they never got the original notice. Sometimes people would send in $90 confused by the letter that said Euro 60. And sometimes, you know, there's a variety of situations. And I would hear the excuses, Penny would hear the excuses, Gina B would hear the excuses, Gina Spino would hear the excuses. Sometimes they would send in a business form, sometimes they would send in a check, but not both. I mean, it is a ginormous, to make up a word, amount of time to follow up with the 500 businesses in those, each and every one of those specific situations, especially when there's not a staff member responsible for doing it. The collector is, and it's a part-time position. During those 3 months out of the year, it's a lot. And with regards to the home-based businesses, there's really no way to verify if they're still in business. And so one of the things that I've learned over the 4 years as clerk is it's a very fluid business, much more so than the brick and mortar. Like brick and mortar, somebody goes out of business, another business takes their spot. So that number consistently is hovered around 300. But the home-based businesses, that really when somebody that's in business the year before is not in business the next year. And there's no way to tell from looking at the outside of their house when we send out code enforcement until there's actually business there. So the only resource we really have is the report that the Illinois Department of Revenue generates annually, but they don't do that until September. So they send us monthly reports of changes, but if a home-based business hasn't registered with them or they don't pay sales tax, we don't even know. And there's a lot of businesses in town that aren't even registered with us. There's literally almost no way to verify. And the reality is, a lot of the towns around us do not register or license home-based businesses.
All right. Well, John, let me ask you a question. Didn't we have a service that went out and they checked to see who's paying the sales tax, or if they're paying it short, or if they're...
Yes, we did. We did. We had a revenue audit done for sales tax collections from home and businesses. I know Trustee Holtz is talking about the registration, because businesses are required to have an Illinois business tax number. Correct. They may not collect sales tax, they may not pay income tax, they may not pay payroll taxes, but they could still be required to have that. I do agree, it is chasing a ghost. It's very, very difficult to assess home businesses,
well,
whether they're in or not.
But we also had a lot of businesses that were home businesses, they were brick and mortar. So my second question would be then, do you, for me, when I get papers from the City of Country Club Hills, and they ask, who am I, my phone number, who's the contact, who's this, what's the codes for the alarm system? So this way, if God forbid something happens, they also do it. You send it in, and I send my check in with it, and I get my license.
Right, that's the process.
All right, so if that's the case, if we don't know if there's someone in home business, we got a phone number. Call them. Find out.
Right, so in the past, like I said, it's all on paper, so it's just like a binder. It is a lot of
I know it's a lot
of work to do it, but now that we have the iWork software, it should make it a lot easier.
No, that process will still be the same. You'll still have to determine whether they're a business or not. iWorks will have nothing to do with that.
Yeah, but
no, we still have to determine it, but at
Right.
least it's not it's in a software problem.
It will generate reports, right?
But I understand. I understand it. What I don't understand is then why wasn't a phone call made? And if it was something that you're overwhelmed on, and I understand it because I see what you do, and I see what everyone else does here, then you ask for help.
Okay, can I just say something? So would refer to Christina, so 2018-19, total number of brick and mortar not paid, that's 7, and 22 for home-based businesses. So again, I think it's part of me for being direct, jumping to conclusions that phone calls were not made. I had an entire file folder documenting any and all interaction with businesses who didn't pay, didn't send in the form of the check, only sent in a check but not the form, people who sent emails or called the office. The CSRs would then send me an email saying this business is no longer operating. That would go in the file, and I would remove them from the one section of the spreadsheet down to the bottom. I think the point that we're saying is, with the iWorks program, the first part of the process is going to be so much simpler and smoother, and it will generate reports, correct? Right?
Yeah, so if someone sends, like, for a perfect example, I received an email yesterday, they had received the business registration letter, and they sent me an email saying, you know, unfortunately, we are no longer in business, please remove me from your business registration, or your business list. So in iWorks, you just go in and click a simple button, and it takes them off of everything. It just removes them, and you can print a report from that point of who has been removed, who's still in business, who's paid late, who hasn't paid it, and so forth.
And under the previous process, that all had to be done manually. And so to protect the integrity of the one database Excel spreadsheet, which was created in 2005 and then done save as, and updated on an annual basis, only I was doing that, because if you're going to have 5 people going into a database, you're not going to know who might have messed something up or entered the wrong information, or, you know, it had to be one person. It was daunting. It was daunting. And the reality is I have been talking to staff, village managers, you know, you name it, since 2016, trying to understand why the process is what it is, how can we make it more efficient, how can we streamline it, and I have done things to streamline it. In fact, in 2016, I had conversations with Director Schwartz. I also had a follow-up conversation with Joe Baber, this was back 3 years ago, and he is the one that told me we have to issue fines before, and I confirmed that with Elaine. So this was back in 2016. And the sentiments that both of them expressed to me was, you know, we're trying to be a business-friendly village here, not necessarily punish people. And so I totally get and totally respect what Christina is saying in terms of getting the revenue that under the code we are entitled to. And I think part of the problem is because it fell under the clerk collector role that, you know, and I touched on this in my response, that's probably not the best scenario. And in every other town around us, those functions are actually handled by the building department. And I have talked to,
if I can interrupt for just 1 second, I'm sorry. I just want to reiterate, this is my report. This is my 6-month report of the challenges and the tasks that I have been given. For you to have a response, I don't want you to think or feel that this is sort of say an attack on you. This is more or less me explaining to the rest of the board the things that I didn't know is when I sat in that same exact seat. I did not know that these issues existed because it wasn't brought to me. I only think it's fair to explain to the rest of the board and the residents of what the current roles are of the clerk and the collector and where we stand. So there's no reason to defend what had happened in the past discussions that you have had, because it's not an attack on me.
I don't view your report as an attack on me at all.
I just really want to just, like I said, kind of explain the things, why I'm bringing this forward, how I would like to proceed, and just kind of move on. So, I mean,
we talked, we met this morning, we met a couple weeks ago. I talked with Carrie earlier, like I told you.
I just didn't want it to turn into like a defense of, you know, this is why things happen. We get it. I mean, I would just like to amp up on the business registration and keep in mind that it is a collector's role. And I can see why things would have fallen through the cracks, but at the same time, it needs to be at the forefront. So you guys know, moving forward, we need to amp it up on this.
In the 10 years that I've been here, we've never written a citation for lack of business registration that I recall, and I don't believe even previously before me that was ever done as well and taken to adjudication court for records. So.
But I do feel that we need to, or otherwise we're going to have more business that's not not.
I mean, why is it any different than like a code violation?
I understand.
I mean,
It was, I don't know where that policy decision came from, but that was, it just never happened.
Well, if we've never brought anything to anyone to personally put it in their hand and say, look, this is your third warning, and have them give you an opportunity to, what are you talking about? Or, I screwed up. So, the point is, the whole idea of this is just, our business license is $30. Not gonna break your bank. But when you have, I don't know how many we have in total dollars, that's a lot of money that's out of the village. It shouldn't be. There should have been a catch-all on the back end to be able to find out. Because like I said, if you come into the 18 and the 19, you look at it and go, wait a second, I still got a stack of 18s. That right there should have put a big red flag up in here and said, well, wait a second, we got to find out why we have all these. Because even there, I drive around this village so much that I know most of the businesses. So if I saw something in there and I saw a business, let's just say it's Joe Schmo's restaurant, and he's still in there, because I just went there the other day and had something to eat, and I got his business license. Or if I went by tea time and I got his business license. So that right there would tell me that we got a problem. And unfortunately, it wasn't, no one caught it until Christine got in office and was trying to straighten up some things.
Can I respond to that?
Wait. I understand that a lot of things that you do in this village is extremely busy. I understand, because I do the same thing. So, but this is like Christine just got done saying, this isn't anything to be bringing down on you. This is something that the village, we're putting off to make sure that we do our due diligence to make sure that all the residents are taken care of, and that we're doing our job. And if there's a problem, that's why I'm, for Terry, if I'm not sure, that's the first person I run to. If it's something that has to do with money, the first person I run to is John. I get my answer. If I can't get my answer, they get it for me and then they call me back. There's no excuse for not asking to come. And there's really no excuse for anyone not to come to me, because I have such an open door. It's pathetic. I get hollered at because I talk to too many people. But the whole thing is, we're trying to do what's right, and we're not. So I'd like Christine to finish this, so I can just read this and we can get this thing.
The only reason I'm responding, and it's not necessarily to your report per se, because I don't view it as an attack, and we've talked, and we are on the same page with regard to the collector's duties being assigned to staff. We are 100% in agreement, and I felt that way for a number of years. In March, I went and talked to Gina Spino and Joe Baber, and I said, we have the same, group of 15 to 20 brick and mortar businesses that ignore the hand delivery warnings, and they still don't pay up. And even though we have never assessed a fine before, I said I feel like this year we should. And they both agreed. And Gina was like, yes, finally, because she's also had to make phone calls, and I have asked for help consistently. So the way some of your things are being phrased is what I am responding to, and what I'm asking to respond is to clarify that these discussions and conversations have taken place, and I have asked for help. And if you look at the highlighted document that I asked you each to take a copy of, that was the draft of my notes on the collector's processes that I typed on May 8th and I gave to staff. And in it, I specifically addressed the fact that we had not assessed fines before, but we should start.
May 8th of what year?
This year. Yeah.
The day we were sworn in, or?
Yeah. That's where that 3 pages came from. I typed that. And
so that's the day that you put it into action, is the day that you were coming out of office?
Carrie and I, is she coming back?
Yeah, she's.
Carrie and I had a meeting at the beginning of her tenure, and we discussed creating an SOP because she was surprised to learn that there wasn't one. There wasn't one. There was nothing written around the books at the time I took office either. I learned on the job from staff, and a lot of discussion with Glen and the former deputy clerk. And that's the reality of it. But by the same token, like I admire Christina's tenacity for walking the door, and it coincided with Carrie walking the door, and two sets of fresh eyes looking at that situation in that office and saying, how can we make this more efficient? I didn't have that opportunity. We were in the strip mall. I had boxes of storage boxes full of board packets and documents, you know, floor to ceiling, with barely room to walk to my desk. There just wasn't time to tackle completely revisiting the business registration process. And me being new to the job, and certainly with zero confidence about my knowledge of it, did not see that as something that was in my scope to take on the initiative and challenge us to revisit that and make changes. I was still learning the job, you know what I'm saying?
And
So I admire everything that
in
she's
6
done.
months, I'm still learning the job too. So and with regards to the business registration, and like I keep saying, is I would like to make the changes to move forward, and I would like support from the board and the mayor and his staff and everybody to do what our ordinance says and to collect the fees on time and do everything.
I appreciate that you're asking for that, because in all of this, I've not heard once. You know, I'd like to know that when we're sitting here and we pass an ordinance, that that ordinance is going to be enforced, that it's not going to be flouted and we're not going to be brought into the loop. You sit there and you say that fines were not assessed before your tenure and during your tenure, but it was never discussed with the board. And Joe has been given direction many times by the board in your 10 years, as well as other times, when there have been times when the board has said as a policy direction, we are not going to enforce certain things. Temporary signs on 159th Street, you know, a couple come to mind to me. But it's always been our decision to say we are going to set that aside. We want this action, but we will take the opportunity to set that aside. We don't relinquish that to anybody else.
I understand.
You know, well, and especially now that you're sitting on this side of me instead of that side, and you should, because that is our authority. That is how we know that if we make a decision today, good, bad, or indifferent, that's being carried out. And if you find that, and again, I'm glad that Christina's now telling us this, because it's the first time we're hearing that it's super cumbersome and maybe not as important to go after home-based businesses. If it is, like John said, chasing a ghost, well, maybe the board needs to say, you know, that's the clerk's role to come forward, or to the manager and say, you know, I need a workshop on this, because these guys need to be roped in. They've given me, you know, Gordian knot to undo here, and I can't undo it on a part-time basis. But if we don't know about that, this is just going to continue to snowball and snowball until we get to today.
Agreed, and I agree, and I agree with the statements that, you know, Mr. Mayor has said in the past. And hindsight is 20/20, and looking back on that time, I wish I had the confidence in the role to speak it in terms of I knew that this could be done better, but I didn't. This was the mentality of the system that existed when I took over, and I got it, and I did the work, and I repeated it annually. But I also was very diligent in making the follow-up phone calls, sending out the letters, emails, and reconciling my spreadsheet with the Department of Revenue spreadsheet every September in anticipation of setting up a new round of registrations for the upcoming year. I feel with the IRS system, it's going to be so much more efficient that it will actually make it so that that follow-up part will then be easier, and staff will have more time to focus on that part of it. You know, it just, I don't know what else to say. I mean, sure, if I had known it was going to be this big discussion, I would have brought it up 3 years ago when I was talking to staff about it. But I can tell you that in 4 years, the number of conversations I've had with, you know, village managers, up until this came up this summer, twice. Mike Merton and Rivera. And the only discussion they inquired about was why doesn't the building department handle it? That's it.
So I did walk into the same steps that you sort of did. No SOPs, no way. The only way you learn is by asking the questions and diving in. So I dove in. I'm bringing it to you guys to say, this is what I would like to do, is do what we've set out to do, and just, so there's no more, we never did this before, we are going to start doing it now. I hate to be deemed that bad clerk, you know, going after the businesses, but we do need to recoup what's rightfully ours. And the time that we spent and staff's put into is, the registration fee is $30. It doesn't even cover the staff time. you know, it's the paper, the envelope, the stamp, it doesn't even cover it. So, I mean, the minimum of $30, I personally think that it should be more. Obviously, that's the board's discretion, and I know it's already discussed, but just so you guys know in the future, there is a lot that goes into it, and especially the cost of the iWorks software too. So, putting business registration aside now, I think we can move on from that. I just want to let you guys know the steps, and I will keep you abreast of what's going on and what businesses have not paid and so forth. Do you have anything to add on the business registration?
No.
I just wanted to clarify one last thing, and then we can move on. That, as I said, I typed this and turned this over to staff on May 8th. And typically in May and June, is when the late, the letters warning them of imminent fines would go out. But Christina and I didn't have the opportunity to discuss the process until you called me in July. We met July 15th. So I was no longer clerk. So that stack of papers that you saw and those things, I was no longer clerk to do that follow-up process that would normally happen during that time.
But I still feel that you should have had an opportunity to tell Christine at that time that this is screwed up, this is screwed up.
I did address that in my response.
Oh, in your response today?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because we got sworn in on May 8th, and I did ask for any standard operating procedures that you had made prior to, and this was never included, and no staff has ever given. This is the first time seeing it.
It was a draft, because
Yeah.
Carrie and I had discussed it, and I had given it to staff, and there was going to be one created based on the discussion that Carrie and I had, and she asked me to prepare these notes, and this is what I prepared.
Yeah, I've never seen this, so I don't know if you've seen it, but, so moving on from business registrations,
I have one question.
oh boy.
Quick question, and this is more process oriented.
Yeah.
And as a registration paying business owner, on
I'll have to check that, I'm just kidding.
On the new process that you guys have, so that's more informational instead of automated, as far as, let's say a notice comes out, would the business owner be able to pay that online?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I wish the answer was yes, but not yet, but we're working on it.
Stop, I mean, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
I get a
I
million
agree.
of these
Yeah, I know.
renewals, and sometimes I'll just pull out my phone and just pay it on the spot.
Yeah.
It has
And I
been
think that would help
discussed.
out.
Yes, so that is the next step. So the first step is to get the software program. The next step is to automate it so you can go online and submit it, not just for this, but for a lot of different things that you may need to pay the village. And so you don't have to mail in a check, or you don't have to, we need to automate it. We got to catch up to that, but that's next on the list.
And
It's
then
only
one more
been
thing,
6 months, but
suggestion.
give me time.
Just really quick, I know that in, I don't know, the state, when you don't pay your liquor license, you're behind, they put you on a list.
Yes.
Nobody likes to be on a list in the public, so just let you know.
Public list?
Yeah.
I work over there with make a list.
Yeah, and the recent code changes that we made to the business license process, the language that you guys adopted is much more verbose, and it is much more clear of what the ramifications are of not, if you're going to operate without a license, there's ramifications for that, up to and including closure. And sometimes you have to do those things, you know, and there's a process, there's a due hearing process that was included, there's a lot of things that are added to that to make sure that the business understood what their rights and responsibilities were, but also what our role would be in enforcing that new code as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Christine, you want to?
So the liquor, gaming, and tobacco licenses is kind of pretty much what we already discussed, collector versus the clerk role, and standard operating procedures and all that fun stuff, which the staff has been so helpful with, and we're all moving forward and you know, having things set in standard operating procedures. So I'm just going to move on now to the executive session minutes. You guys have a list in front of you of, and I corrected that one item F. And the reason why, and I was asked why we're bringing this back up again. The only reason why I'm putting it in part of my report is to, you know, give you guys a better understanding of the tasks that I was given when I stepped into the office. A lot of this is being handled, and I've had a lot of support and people asking, how can I help? What can I help with? And George, you've been a great help with that as well. But I just wanted to give you guys an overview of, you know, the items that were an issue and and why now I'm lagging on my minutes because I'm trying to fix things in the past. And my number one goal is for the next clerk that sits in the seat won't have to go through the same things that I am going through, and which Ann had gone through when she took the seat. So you guys have the list in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions in regards to the executive session. I know, they're a pain. If not, the last thing is just item number 4, the office morale. I mean, I do just have to say that, when I was sitting on that side of the dais, things were not so, staff. It used to be more staff versus board, and that's my personal opinion, or board versus staff, or however you want to look at it. But now I have to compliment Carrie, since she's been there, I feel, and now that I'm on this side, I have a lot more understanding where the staff is coming from. And since I sat on that side, I understand where the trustees come from. And I just feel that there is a positive, and you guys are staff, I mean, I just think it's, with Carrie being here, the staff morale has totally boosted, and it's been amazing. And with her support, I get a lot of this done, can go to her with anything. So I'm not a pain in her butt just yet, but I'm sure I'm getting there. So that's pretty much, that's the end of my report.
All right.
Sharon?
For all the
I
things
keep talking, Sharon.
For all the things that we've done, we've read, we've gone over in executive session out here. First, I want to thank Christina for your report. You have done a wonderful job as a new clerk and our community. As mayor, I feel that I need to make just a few comments, because some of the things that have happened, I think public should know. We are very transparent. I try not to hold anything back, but this last year has been challenging. And I hope after tonight we can all move forward together. The village has incurred additional costs due to the actions of former clerk holds. Attorney fees were incurred to defend the village because the clerk filed a complaint against the board for the Attorney General's office for things that we were accused of in closed session, which we did not do. No one on the board violated any rules or laws or the public trust, yet the taxpayers paid the attorney fees for this. The village also had to pay attorneys for election challenge that was unfounded, and this was wrong. We have some businesses that did not pay for their annual registrations, some for more than 1 year. Again, this was wrong. The clerk's office is responsible for the official minutes, and these got behind and were not done in a timely manner. Many times I was told it's not my business, and as the clerk, her office is her own entity. The clerk does not report to me. I would have helped and stepped in if I had known. Everyone on the boards knows that I do have an open door policy. If I don't know and I can't help solve the problem as mayor, I want every one of us to be successful. I am here to help. So tonight I am asking for all the board members. This is just one thing it has to be done. Tonight I'm asking all the board members not to call our attorneys directly. Please go through myself or the village manager as many times as we can get the answer to your question or concern without paying the attorney. And it's no offense to Eric at all, but I'd rather not pay it. When Mayor Daley was in office, it was the same thing. We don't need 1 million people calling the lawyer. If there's a question, call us first. Call Carrie, call me. If I can't answer it and I think that it's something you need to know, then we can do it. Because otherwise we just get billed on it. I don't want to be in a position where we're constantly spending money for something that we shouldn't be spending. So,
no offense taken here.
Okay. So, last thing, it's my desire to move forward for the betterment of our community. I want the community to feel comfortable with us. Has mistakes been made on some things? Yes, they have. Are we addressing them? Yes, we are. Are we going to eliminate them? Yes, we will. So, if you have anything else to say?
I do.
Okay.
I would like to respond to that. So, I don't know how to say this. To put it in context, I never chose to make the complaint I filed with the Attorney General public. I never chose to use it as a campaign issue because it happened during the election process. Because for me, it wasn't about that. And when the Attorney General made the ruling, and I will quote, accordingly, the board violated section 2.06A of OMA. That's from the Attorney General's office. Because the board has purchased a new recording device, and Mrs. Holt is now a member of the board and who presumably is present at closed session meetings, has direct involvement in the manner closed meetings are held, and may use her position on the board to promote its compliance with OMA, no remedial action is necessary.
Can I ask a clarification question?
Yeah.
When it says the board violated, the clerk is included in that board.
Right.
So it's not just
Right.
the trustees and mayor, it's the clerk as well.
It's all of us.
And they declined to issue a binding opinion because the parties disagree as to whether the portions of the closed meeting were inadvertently or purposely not recorded. The parties agreed that the closed session was not recorded in its entirety.
And you did state today that you could agree that the recorder possibly, because it's not just happened that one time, but it twice can malfunction.
So I understand now what the objective of this. This is not a game that I like to play, but I know how to play it. So obviously you guys wanted a public apology, and that's why you chose to make that public, even though we've discussed it behind closed doors, and I have apologized to Attorney Hansen, and I've apologized to Trustee Speaks. I don't feel I owe an apology to anybody else. I've been trying to move forward for the last several months, but I feel like, even though you sit here saying you want to move forward, I feel like your statements are designed nothing more than to malign me, and now I would like the opportunity to respond.
Glen?
Okay, there are several key circumstances that affect the backlog of minutes. I went through my paperwork that I took when I cleaned out my office. These are my working sheets for executive session minutes from each calendar year as I was working on them. That shows that I was keeping up with them, okay? I fell behind in August of 2018. I was contacted by Keith Gray after he talked to the village manager, Mike Mertens. Talked to Mertens, I talked to Keith in August, and I said, yes, I had fallen behind, but I would be caught up. I spoke to you in December about it, and I assured you I am caught up, because I was caught up by November, and that's just for that year. I was caught up in 2016, 2017, 2018, and when I left office, I left no untyped minutes for Christina. When I took over as clerk, I had to type 16 sets of minutes for the prior clerk. 14 of those were executive session. Executive session minutes can only be typed in the office. So when the clerk is also doing the collector role, and I was also doing the community fest for 4 consecutive fests, I was in charge of the beer vendors, the food vendors, the sponsorships, advertising, as well as all of the money. That in and of itself was like a full-time job for the months of April, May, and June. All of those things affect your ability to fall behind with keeping the minutes tight. But the minutes were always done. Where the backlog exists existed when I left office, and Christina has done an amazing job of since trying to get caught up. I don't set the agenda. That was never part of my role. That role falls between the village manager and the mayor. You guys set the agenda. We've had 3 village managers and 2 interim village managers in 4 years. And if that is not a consistent role, and they're not keeping that consistent issue on the agenda, okay? I mean, who am I to tell them, this is not on the agenda? We've had a lot of executive sessions where we're interviewing clients for that role, or candidates. There are a number of reasons as to why the backlog exists. And I will not accept that this is solely on me. I dispute that. Furthermore, to talk about that exact list, we resolved that. I don't know why it was never approved in open session. The consensus was in closed session, but I assume it was for that reason it was left off the agenda. The 12-12 draft was submitted for approval on February 27th, and there were requested revisions, which I did. I made a red line copy to reflect the discussion on February 27th. I plan to present it at the following March meeting. I was not going to comment on 116, but you just did, so there's that. Now, the board met on February 27th for review and approval of executive session minutes, and we discussed 14 cents. I wrote them on my working sheet that I had when I left office. Consensus was reached on the 10 sets of minutes pending typo and other miscellaneous corrections, such as spelling. It was planned, and you are all welcome to go listen to the recording again, to approve said minutes at the next regular meeting in March. However, you, Mr. Mayor, canceled the regular March meetings, and you scheduled a meeting on March 20th. I was told, pardon me, I was told by Heather Kukudinsky, who was the then acting co-interim village manager, like Mr. Baber, that you wanted only essential items on the agenda, and you did not want executive session on the agenda. And if you look at the agenda that was posted for the March 20th meeting, it's not on there. So we never went into open session to approve those minutes that we had consensus on February 27th. That's not my fault. That meeting on March 20th lasted all of 3 minutes. It abruptly ended. We did not discuss executive session minutes or personnel, what you state on the recording that day that we're going to talk about. And then you canceled executive session on both April meetings agendas.
And if I could just step in, I don't want you upset, sorry.
I'm calm.
I know.
I'm trying to get it all out. I'm trying to stay calm.
I just redirected, but we did.
His statement was very clearly directed at me, and I wanted to defend it.
I understand 100%.
I know you and I are on the same page, and we've been good, but that was not okay.
I just want to point out something, that the reason, and again, you're feeling like he had said something to you or attacked you, but in the same hand, you're going back and him saying he personally canceled these meetings. These were not canceled because George just wanted to cancel them. They were canceled for the reasons why that January 16th happened, the recording. Nobody wanted to have, and nobody wanted to have a meeting with a broken recorder, and not being fixed. So in that defense, it wasn't just because George wanted to cancel a meeting, and I don't want that out there. I want to be honest and say the reason the meetings were canceled is nobody at that time wanted to have a meeting with a broken recorder, and with the situation that happened on January 16th, there was no trust factor there. So I think we were just kind of playing out the term and just letting it go until I had taken off.
But he also did not discuss with me an alternative, which was, at that time, we could have recorded it on that little handheld recorder that
we had purchased a recorder, which you refused to use.
Because it states in the statute that it doesn't state how the recording has to be made, and you were not my boss. And I did not agree that there was something wrong with the recorder. And that is why...
Which you do admit now that there was.
No, what I admit was it is possible that it was not intentional, and it was a malfunction.
It was.
And I admitted that before. And that is
That's why we bought the new one.
And that is, okay, but you went about that without even talking to me. I came in the following week to go do the recorder, and it was gone. And I called John Robinson, and I said, where's the recorder? He said, I was told to purchase a new one. The mayor told me to purchase a new one. You did that without discussing it with me. And then you never came to me after that. And that's why I said that, about that. Because I was like, you're not even going to discuss it with me. Now all the meetings are being canceled. I was never given the opportunity to present all of these minutes. And there were 45. But some of them were a paragraph long. But I was not given that opportunity because everybody was mad at me about the AG.
But and you can't, and like I said, we have no beefs with each other, but you can't sit here and say that 45 sets of executive session minutes were supposed to be approved in the March 20th meeting when it wasn't even on the agenda. Yes, George had stated in the meeting on the recording that we were going in to discuss it, but it wasn't even on the agenda.
Right.
So you can't say that 45 sets of minutes were going to go.
No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm not
So
trying to say that.
it is a backlog. Can you explain why there was a backlog? I talked with your father, and I understand that. But moving forward, this is in the past. I think that the whole board can look at each other right now. You can say, I'm taking over this, I will handle this, I will get it accomplished, I will get it done. My only request is that the board can move forward on all of these issues and just kind of just be done with it. Because it's bantering back and forth, and blaming him and blaming you, it's getting to be too much, and it's bogging down.
To be honest with you, and you brought up that I contacted you about those, and I contacted Manager Mertens, and actually I've done that twice. And once was almost to the day, 6 months after I started, after our first executive session, because I knew what the codes are in Illinois statute.
About the review.
About the review.
Right.
And I started pestering about that. And I think probably most people on this board now know that, I'm kind of a, I don't hold back. I'm going to go for what I want, and I'm not going. So if you had mentioned at that time, Trustee Gray, I don't set the schedule. I can't get this on the, I don't know how to get it on the agenda. We never talked about the agenda. Because at least I knew it was 6 months. I will give you that in my first month. I didn't know how to get something on the agenda. I learned quickly how to get something on there. And if you had told me that you were having a problem there, or that you didn't know how to, I would have definitely made that case right here in open session and said, we need to get that on, because we need to not have this back.
I did have that exact discussion with Village Manager Mertens, and then he resigned following up. So, what I'm trying to say is there are additional circumstances here that factored into this backlog. It is not solely about me not doing my job, and that very much feels how your comments are directed at me. And I'll also point out that one of the reasons that I would fall behind, during the 4 years, just by keeping up with the minutes, was you have to do them in the office. You can't do them from home. You can't do them in your spare time, whatever. You have to do them in the office. And let's face it, I'm a klutz, and I had an ankle injury, sometimes two, and I had a spinal surgery situation. That injury alone kept me out of the office for weeks at a time, and I had done my very best under a part-time hourly working arrangement to do this. And yes, hindsight is 20/20, and I said it before that if I could have handled the Attorney General thing differently, I would have. But that is almost a year ago, and we still have not moved forward.
Well, and just touch on that point, and you are, I believe, correct. You had, and this is speaking for me, you had made an accusation which I believe offended a lot of people, which lost trust in you, because we didn't do anything that you had stated. And in the hindsight, after I had kind of reeled you back into having listened to the recording and listened to what Sharon had actually said and what George actually said and how it all happened, you did say, I wish I did it, and you typed those minutes, out of anger and all that stuff. So I believe that the board is still kind of holding that against you in a way, because you haven't apologized for that. You've apologized
I'm publicly acknowledging that now.
Right.
Because I didn't think we were going to talk about that in public, because I thought, the minutes from that meeting have not been approved. I didn't think it was appropriate to discuss in public, but I am acknowledging hindsight, looking back on it after you and I had subsequent discussions, and I re-listened to the recording, and I heard what Sharon said, and, considering some of the stuff that we talked about, I reevaluated my assumptions about Ericksville. I apologize, and I acknowledged then, and I acknowledge it publicly now, that if I knew then what I know now, I would absolutely have done things differently. And I'm sorry if my actions led to this distrust factor, but that was in January, and it's December, and I've been working with Christina since May to try to get all this worked out, and it just seems like no matter what I say, no matter what I do, it just keeps coming back, and I'm feeling defensive.
And
I don't know how
maybe
much more I
now-
need to publicly acknowledge.
This is the first step of the public apology.
Because I didn't know we were going to talk
Right,
about
so
that.
so hopefully,
Talk about blindsided.
now that it's out there and we're, facing the forefront of it, that maybe we can move forward on, not me, I've already moved on, but I'm saying maybe others can move, forward now that it's out there publicly and, it's not so much. And yes, the trust factor is, has been, tainted a little bit, and now that you've accepted that and understand that,
And that goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
There are other issues that I'm not going to talk about that have led to distrust issues with certain people on this board, but I still want to move forward, and I still want to work on the business of the village, and be professional with people, but
So in regards to this executive session stuff and the business registration and the liquor licenses and stuff, when I come forward again with my report, I want everyone to understand this is not an attack on you. This is just me keeping you abreast of where we stand and the public to know where we stand. So I don't want to have this debate every single time. It's out there, it's open, I got it, it's out of the way now. And every time I come forward, this is just a progress of how we're moving along. And hopefully eventually that this will be a real part-time job and not a full-time job as, you know, that it really is turning out to be.
And I just want to summarize, I really appreciate everything Christina has done, and she and I are on the same page that with regards to the collector's responsibilities, those should be disseminated to staff. This is an ordinance that talks about the collector's salary. We talked about that in the August meeting, that when those changes are made and Carrie finds the appropriate people to handle those roles, the collector's salary can be removed effective immediately, because you said you didn't have a problem with that. I don't want to speak
No,
to
and that was part of what I was saying, is that I'm not looking for a pay increase, or I'm not looking for, you know, any kudos for this. I'm just saying, if the job of the collector is going to be dispersed amongst the staff, then the clerk's pay should be reduced if those are not my ultimate responsibilities. But at the current time, we're still trying to figure out the SOPs and who's handling it and what's doing it. So once that is all handled and squared away, then that will be something to be discussed.
Yeah, and like I said, I prepared those notes and I gave them to staff on May 8th. And, you know, I'm sorry that people are under the impression that somehow the current situation reflects that I somehow wasn't doing the work, and that I was not trying to work through this. I was. When I came in with Christina in May, the office had been cleaned out. We couldn't find the files until July to go over it. So, you know, I wasn't clerk anymore. I feel like you're still holding that against me, George. Mr. Mayor.
Am I holding anything against you?
No, it was about the business registration specifically. I think it was confusion and a lack of understanding of the process, because nobody else did it but me. And did I like that? No. And should I have come, you know, before and maybe tackle it the way Christina did? Well, sure. I can say that now. Do I apologize for that too? I don't know. I just want to move forward too, because I'm tired of the bickering.
I'm tired of bickering, and I'm tired of having the things to where we have to find out where they're at. All we're trying to do right now is Christine's working on them. She's getting them in all in order. You can't help her because you were not the clerk anymore, which makes it a little bit harder for her.
How can I not help her? I'm a trustee. I'm reviewing those minutes anyway.
When you review the minutes, you can explain.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're reviewing the minutes and trying to figure out which ones haven't been approved yet, and vice versa. Why, who's to say that I can't help her?
So in the years past, from 2001 until 2015, there was one in 2013, but the proper protocol of how to release minutes were not ever really done. It's very shady of how it was done, and discussed in executive, but never brought out to the board. So we do have to do a resolution, yeah, to go backwards. So Ann and I did take a binder and go through, and wow, there were some serious mistakes made on dates and how they went about it. So picking apart each binder, it's going to take a process, but it will get done. And I'll talk to Carrie and George about the minutes that I feel that were already sort of approved, and get those out of the way. It's just going to be a lot of one-offs for you guys, you know, are just going to have to go with the flow on me on that one.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to say?
Well, I have a comment under new business. Just quick, I know it's getting awfully late, but I just want to, I don't believe that publicly attacking another elected official is going to help us trying to work closer together with the township, whether it's an IGA or anything else. So I think that was wrong to do.
And I respect your opinion, and as I stated, that was my personal opinion, because I worked alongside her for 4 years. And I just don't think that that's a realistic concept in the big scheme of things. That's all. And I'm sure I'll deal with her, you know, when she hears about it. I have 2 things that I wanted to talk about on new business. I'll keep it as short as possible. I would like to know, and I would like to disclose what the village is paid. The village pays for videography, what we pay now. Are we in compliance with laws as it pertains to video retention, closed captioning, approval of minutes being? So basically, the reasons the township gave that it would cost $36,000 a year, I want to know, are we in compliance with those things? You know, so what are we paying, and are we in compliance? And if we're not, what do we need to do to get in compliance? So I'll give you this. Okay. And then I know there was, I think a memorandum or something that talked about maybe Channel 6 on Comcast. What about all the people who do Comcast? Are we still gonna put meetings on YouTube?
Yes, we
Okay.
still do both.
Okay.
It's just getting our own cable station was just an opportunity for us to expand our reach to as many residents as we can. So that doesn't mean that we won't continue to do the YouTube. It's just one other way to communicate.
Yeah, I just went. And then this I will, to save time, I will just email it to Carrie and she can distribute it to the board instead. It has to do with non-conforming building structures and uses in subsection 220-1101. I'd like the board to review that section of the code and possibly amend it. And I will forward that to Carrie for her to distribute to the board to consider and hopefully have a discussion at a future board workshop. That's all, thank you.
Okay, we're done. There is no executive session tonight, Christina.
Yeah, I think we should cancel it. We'll pick up those items at the later meeting.
Do you want to discuss executive session minutes anymore? I'm just kidding. Let's go on.
Trustee Variance also go on, I keep here to what we're doing stuff. So I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. I'm just kidding.
All in favor?
Second.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Are we gonna see you
Christmas.
23rd?